Hogwarts. Start in Azkaban. Chapter 1. Above the gray and gloomy sky, hundreds of Dementors hovered and danced constantly above the sky, and from time to time a few swooped in front of the prisoners of Azkaban to absorb the prisoners' beautiful, warm memories, leaving them with endless darkness and darkness. Frigid despair. However, in the hundreds of cells, there was a young boy with black hair and silver eyes, but he was not patronized by these Dementors. This is of course not because the Dementors will pity the young son, but after Chuhi was sent in 2 months ago, the Dementors found him immediately. But the Dementor's characteristically positive emotion sucking doesn't work for him, because he doesn't have any good memories at all. There was even some kind of ambitious suction from those deep silver pupils, which made all the Dementors instinctively perceive the danger of being plundered and left the young son. The youngest son's name is Chuhi. He can't remember who his parents are, and when he starts to remember at the age of 3, he learns that he is a Death Eater's assistant. With a Death Eater owner, it is naturally impossible to have any good childhood memories. It is also common to eat the bones. After working for the Death Eaters for 5 years, he secretly analyzed the connection between magic and incantations. Chuhi killed the Death Eater with the Avidasa life spell, and then gave up the slanderous name given to him by the other party, and gave himself the name Chuhi. Then Chuhi lived a life of one person, eating and studying magic spells every day and fighting with Death Eaters who coveted him. When he was 9 years old, when he was out shopping for ingredients, he ran into 2 muggles who tried to snatch his purse and killed each other with the death curse. This behavior was immediately noticed by the Ministry of Magic, and a large number of Aurors were immediately dispatched, got it under control. Following a hearing in a Ministry of Magic court, Chuhi was sentenced to life imprisonment for Azkaban. So far, nothing has gone wrong, but when the Aurors locked Chuhi in Azkaban, the problem came. The Dementors couldn't take away Chuhi's beautiful, positive emotions at all, because he didn't have any related emotions at all, and even because he was constantly tortured by the Death Eaters with the gouging curse, his emotional state was in a deeper despair state. Objectively speaking, even the Dementors do not have such bad childhood memories as Chuhi, which makes the Dementors begin to fear Chuhi from the essential level of life after getting along for a period of time. Their attack methods were ineffective against Chuhi, and Chuhi's abyss-like silver pupils had the ability to devour them, which made Chuhi stay in Azkaban for 2 months, and the Dementors had begun to have a sign of surrender to him. Trouble, now they're all over and can't test. Chuhi, who was sitting on the cold stone bed in the cell, frowned slightly and muttered. Dementors will tend to surrender to him, not only because of the fear of Chuhi, but on the other hand, since entering Azkaban, Chuhi has been trying to use his own reincarnation of the Imperius to dominate the magic spell. Try to control these Dementors. This modified kinship domination spell will create a class-defining dominance relationship between the caster and the cursed. To be honest, since hundreds of Dementors take turns to absorb their emotions, Chuhi there are a lot of experimental materials, but in the past 2 months, no Dementors dared to come to him, which also made him fall short. It may be because he has been ordered by the Death Eaters to use various spells to do things for him since he was 3 years old. The learning ability of young children is extremely strong. Yes, Chuhi has a great talent in the improvement of spells. The reason why he was besieged and caught by the Aurors was because the Death Eaters didn't have those formal spells at all. As for the black magic used by the Death Eaters, including the working principle of Avada Suo's life curse, he parsed it out, and then based on his understanding of Avada Suo's life spell, he created a new method targeting Avada Suo. A passive spell of life spell that reflects it directly to the caster. It was this hand that made him safe from the attacks of many dark wizards. Of course, not only the life-threatening spell, but also the black magic recorded in the Death Eater's home was analyzed by him and developed the corresponding defense or counter-devouring spell. In terms of spell science, he is undoubtedly a genius. Most wizards chase after learning new, powerful spells, and Chuhi prefers to understand how spells work, not just learning, which makes him who he is today. Warden, it's been 2 weeks since the Dementors attacked that kid. I feel terrified. If he controls the Dementors, we will. The Auror in charge of the inspection reported to Azkaban Warden Ludmus with a worried look. That kid, even though the wand has been confiscated, what else can I do? Lou Demis asked with some headache. Chu-He, the prisoner who made Azkaban helpless, was the first in the history of Azkaban, and he couldn't understand why the Dementor that made all the wizards talk about didn't work for Chu-He. I don't know, he didn't chant, he just looked at the Dementor silently, but I always felt that the Dementor was gradually giving in to him. How is this possible? The Auror did not argue, but as an Auror who has been managing Azkaban for many years, he also has a certain understanding of the habits of Dementors. What do you want to say? Lou Demis was silent for a while, and asked. Of course he knew that the Auror in front of him did not deceive himself. We may have to admit that Azkaban can't keep him. Once he actually controls the Dementors and drives them to attack us, even if we can use the Patronus charm, we can't deal with so many Dementors. At that time, he will be able to take the opportunity to escape from Azkaban, which will be a fatal blow to our reputation and dignity. Although the Aurors can guard him, judging from the difficulty of arresting him, even 4 Aurors can't restrict his movements. It is very uneconomical to invest a lot of Aurors to guard him all year round. Behavior, and will also demonstrate the incompetence of our Azkaban. What do you mean? Throw him to Hogwarts, where the greatest wizard, Dumbledore, can match dozens of Aurors alone. Under his watch, Chu-He will certainly not be able to do anything too influential. Let him teach Chu-He how to behave in the world, and we can also ease our relationship with him by sending him to Hogwarts. He will become a terrible existence in the future, and I don't want to be an enemy of him. The Auror opened his mouth to propose. Hogwarts, well, I'll discuss it with the Ministry of Magic and try to get this hot potato out. Lou Demis was silent for a while and made a decision. To be honest, he thinks that Chu-He is a bit of an evil kid, and if he stays in Azkaban, there may be trouble in the future, and if he throws him into Hogwarts, then Dumbledore will be responsible. Do not seek merit but seek no fault, this is his philosophy of life. A few days later, Ludmus initiated a meeting at the Ministry of Magic, at which he bitterly described Chu-He's suffering from Dementors, and that it was a great humane thing to put such a young child in Azkaban. Backsliding, and proposes to send Chu-He to Hogwarts to receive an education in wizarding character. Although some radical Aurors were dissatisfied with this proposal, most wizards agreed with Ludmus's tearful remarks and agreed to transfer Chu-He to Hogwarts for education. After successfully persuading the Ministry of Magic to agree to send Chu-He to Hogwarts, Ludmus happily returned to Azkaban, where he was escorted by 2 Aurors to Chu-He's cell. My child, I'm very sorry for making you suffer here, but with my hard work, you will be acquitted and admitted to Hogwarts, where you will spend a period full of sunshine and friendship, student time. Lou Demis showed a kind smile and said kindly to Chu-He. Oh, should I say thank you? Chu-He stared at Chu-He with emotionless silver pupils and asked. This icy gaze seemed to see through Ludmus's hypocritical smile, hitting his heart directly, making Ludmus unable to maintain the smile on his face perfectly. No, this is what I should do. A child like you should never have come to Azkaban. Lou Demis barely maintained the smiling face that was about to collapse, and said. I will return. Chu-He showed a sneer. To be honest, he was very unhappy. He had clearly developed the familiar domination spell that would soon be able to dominate the Dementors, but at this time he was hindered by Ludmus. Seeing those other Death Eaters being tortured so much by Dementors, you can see that the power of Dementors is very good, but of course he is very upset that the ducks he has got are going to fly. No, you better not come back. This is Azkaban prison. Being locked here will be a stain on the wizard's life, and it will have a great impact on your future life. A layer of cold sweat oozes out of Ludmus's forehead. This motherfooler, someone would actually say that he wants to return to Azkaban. This kid is really evil, and he must be sent away quickly. My life is my own, not yours. Yes, it is. Oppressed by Chu-He's aura, Lou Demis could only nod his head in agreement. After all, despite the fact that the kid in front of him is only 9 years old, many Death Eaters and Dark Wizards have already died in his hands. Chu-He's record is more ferocious than most Aurors. You locked me up for 2 months, and now kicking me out without a word, isn't it appropriate? Chu-He stared at Ludmus with sharp eyes. In fact, he was now using another deterrent magic to make Ludmus fall into a state of fear. But Ludmus, who could be the warden of Azkaban, it is not a fuel-efficient lamp, and its willpower is much stronger than that of ordinary Dark Wizards or Death Eaters, so the effect is not too obvious. Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark. Are you blackmailing me? Lou Demis was a little confused. Azkaban had imprisoned all kinds of arrogant dark wizards, but he was the first one who dared to blackmail him, the warden, like Chu-Hee. I was tortured by Dementors for 2 months without any compensation, does that make sense? At this moment, Lou Demis wanted to slap Chu-Hee's face and say hello to other prisoners. It's okay for other prisoners to say this. Chu-Hee has nothing to do with Dementors. If it wasn't for this, he wouldn't thinking of quickly sending him to Hogwarts to clear the relationship, now he actually uses this to talk about it. But, if you fall out with him here, he'll be in big trouble if he doesn't want to go to Hogwarts, so let's just send him away with something. What do you want? Ludmus asked, holding back his anger. Bring me a Dementor. No. Dementors are dangerous magical creatures strictly managed by the Ministry of Magic and must never be given to individuals. Hearing Chu-Hee's request, Lou Demis's expression changed immediately. Cut. It's better to say, what do you want the Dementor to do? Ludmus looked at Chu-Hee seriously. It's not cute to be a pet. Chu-Hee replied solemnly. These words come from a 9-year-old child and can be regarded as a child's speech. Although Ludmus might think that he likes such dark things as a psychopath, Chu-Hee doesn't care about this. The important thing is that he really wanted to control a Dementor through the familiar domination spell, but now it seems that there is no chance. You lunatic. The Dementor can't be given to you, get another one. Lou Demis wiped the cold sweat on his forehead with a handkerchief, and said, he is really scared now, such a small child wants to keep a terrifying word like Dementor as a pet. God knows what he will grow into in the future. Then, give me some money, anyway, my property should be confiscated by the Ministry of Magic. Chu-Hee, who failed to deceive the Dementor, pouted and asked. Of course your property will be confiscated. After all, 2 Muggles have died, and the aftermath of the Ministry of Magic will cost a lot of money. So give me some money, and you don't want me to rob me after I leave Azkaban. Chu-Hee waved a small hand. Ludmus took out his purse with a dark face. Chu-Hee is playing a rogue now. If he goes out and steals money, then Azkaban will be really shameless. The reason why he suggested Chu-Hee to go to Hogwarts at the Ministry of Magic meeting was because Chu-Hee had done nothing against the rules other than killing the Muggles who were trying to rob him. In a sense it could be seen as that it's a legitimate defense. But if he leaves Azkaban and steals money and comes back in, it will be difficult to drive him out of Azkaban. How much do you want? As an adult, don't be too petty, give me the purse. Chu-Hee pointed to Ludmus's purse. When I take it from dark wizards and Death Eaters, I always take the purse directly. Ludmus was silent, and then threw his purse to Chu-Hee with a gloomy face. That is, Death Notice. The reason why they were taken directly was because those dark wizards and Death Eaters had already died, and naturally they would not resist. Thanks, where's my wand? Tomorrow will be delivered to you before you leave Azkaban. Don't cause trouble after you go out. I hope you can have a good life. Don't worry, I don't like being deprived of my liberty, and I won't deliberately come in if no one is looking for me. Chu-Hee waved his hand. Although he could try to tame the Dementors in Azkaban, he was unable to conduct research on the principle of magic spells. He himself planned to leave Azkaban after completely taming the Dementors. Now Ludmus took the initiative to send himself. He doesn't have any opinion on going out. Although it is a pity to say that it was not possible to tame a Dementor, there is still a chance in the future. After negotiating with Chu-Hee, Ludmus left Chu-Hee's cell. What a horrible kid. Lou Demis, who thought so in his heart, then went to his office. Chu-Hee, on the other hand, put his hand into Ludmus's purse and felt it. There were almost 400 gold galleons. It seems that Lou Demis took the position of the Azkaban warden without a lot of oil and water. After all, the purchasing power of a gold galleon is still quite strong. His bag of money is richer than several dark wizards. The next morning, Chu-Hee left his cell under the envy of the other Azkaban prisoners, and was sent by the oars to the coast outside Azkaban prison. There is a small boat waiting by the sea, and the person in charge of sailing is a white-haired old man with a thin face. From the appearance, the age of this ship is estimated to be about the same as that of the old man. If it sails at sea, it will be buried in the deep sea under the stormy waves, but Chu-Hee does not care. There is no need for Ludmus to kill himself in this way. After all, he can also use the magic spell of apparition. Ludmus really wants to kill himself in this way, so he might as well tie himself up with a sack, and then as for Shenhai, even that wouldn't stop him from using the apparition charm. Not to mention that pure-blooded noble wizards like Ludmus cherish their wings. If they want to kill people, they have to use magic to kill. Using Muggle methods to kill is simply a shame for pure-blooded noble wizards like them. This list contains the necessary textbooks for admission to Hogwarts. You can buy them in Diagon Alley. I don't think I need to find someone to take you to buy them. Ludmus handed a letter and a list and asked. No, I know where Diagon Alley is. Chuhi sat on the boat. Then expect we won't see each other again. Lu Demis waved at Chuhi. I'll try not to come back. Chuhi thought for a while and gave a reply. Those who should be extorted have also been extorted, and this Azkaban is only a valuable thing left with the Dementor. But if you take action against this, it will be an enemy of all wizards, and you will probably have to worry about the poison in it when you eat, sleep to prevent someone from assassinating himself. The best way is to sneak in a Dementor unobtrusively to control the family. Coming to Azkaban to force control of all Dementors is not a good decision for your future. The boat then carried Chuhi into the vast sea, and in the salty sea breeze, Azkaban's outline gradually blurred. Then Chuhi opened the envelope marked with the Hogwarts admission letter. Inspired by Mr. Chuhi. Prison 74 in Azkaban. First-year students are required to prepare 3 robes, a wand, and a pair of dragonskin gloves. All students must prepare a size 2 cauldron, and can bring an owl, cat or toad as a pet. You can choose to take the Hogwarts Express train to Hogwarts at platform 9 3/4. Jotting down the items needed on the letter, Chuhi put the letter and textbook list in his pocket. After an overnight voyage, the boat took Chuhi to the outskirts of London. After parting with the old man, Chuhi snapped his fingers. With a click, Chuhi's figure turned into a vortex and disappeared with the sound. A refreshing morning breeze blew through the early morning mist, but it couldn't dispel the gloomy atmosphere in the alley. There are 3 big characters on the old street sign. Nocturne Alley. Wizards in old wizard robes walked sporadically in the alleys. There were all kinds of big spiders, poisonous candles and some ominous magic props in the boxes in front of individual shops. This place is adjacent to Diagon Alley and is a dangerous place for most wizards. With a click, a vortex appeared, and Chuhi's figure emerged from it. The appearance of a young child in Nocturne Alley will naturally attract the attention of many dark wizards. However, after seeing Chuhi's silver pupils, the dark wizard who was planning to abduct him immediately dispersed to the side, avoiding Chuhi. After all, this kid killed the Death Eater who was his master with his own hands. Before the news spread, several dark wizards and Death Eaters coveted his wealth. As a result, after a period of time, these wizards disappeared. The god of death with black hair and silver eyes, this is Chuhi's title in the mouth of the Black Wizard of Nocturne Alley. Since Chuhi studied magic, he did not practice magic spells in a formal way, but analyzed the principle between magic spells and magic, and then changed some of the spells to impose defensive counter curses on himself, which led to most of the magic used by dark wizards. It didn't do anything for it, and after discovering that almost no magic spell could kill Chuhi, the dark wizards stopped provoking Chuhi. To be honest, Chuhi didn't like Nocturne Alley because he apparated over, but his range of activities was also in Nocturne Alley. Since the previous owner was a Death Eater, he came to Nocturne Alley for tasks such as running errands. He had never actually been to Diagon Alley, but had only heard that Diagon Alley was adjacent to Nocturne Alley. The apparition spell requires quite a lot to use, first of all, if it is a familiar place, and then the danger will increase as the distance increases. When he used apparition for the first time, his left hand was broken. Fortunately, he was often thrown to the bone by Death Eater masters. He had a certain patience for pain. He used the medical magic he developed on himself to die. This kind of medical magic uses time backtracking to return the wound to the state it was a few minutes ago, thanks to the fact that it wasn't the head that split, otherwise he would have lost his life at that time. Developing magic is a very dangerous thing, but at that time, under the torture of Death Eaters, Chuhi completely ignored these dangers in order to gain power, and improved all kinds of black magic with the idea of pulling his master to die with him. After the death of the Death Eater, studying the principles of magic has gradually become his hobby. "Hey, how do you get to Diagon Alley?" Chuhi stopped a bald wizard passing by. When the other party was stopped, his body trembled obviously, but after hearing that Chuhi was just asking for directions, he quickly pointed in a direction. "Going that way is Diagon Alley." The bald-headed wizard of Chuhi bowed his head and walked away quickly after his body stiffened and answered in a mechanical tone. After all, not everyone, even a wizard, has killed someone. It has nothing to do with age, and life experience is more important here. Chuhi, who has a record of killing Death Eaters and several dark wizards, is a ruthless character here, which can be seen from his title of the God of Death with black hair and silver eyes. Following the direction of the bald-headed wizard, Chuhi walked for a while, and the surrounding atmosphere soon turned into a relaxed feeling. Unlike Nocturne Alley, there are a lot more pedestrians coming and going on the street. Most of them wear wizard hats on their heads. Holding hands by his parents, he looked around happily. Chuhi reckoned that these children, like himself, were freshmen who had received letters of admission to Hogwarts. "Hey, stop!" An elegant girl with curly blonde hair and a dark green robe blocked Chuhi's way. There was a natural pride in his emerald green gem-like pupils, and Chuhi knew at a glance that this was probably the eldest lady of a pure-blood family. "What's the matter? Why did you come from Nocturne Alley, when a child like you goes to such a dangerous place? Where are your parents?" "Oh, I haven't seen them. Judging from the fact that I was caught by the Death Eaters as an apprentice and servant, maybe he killed me, or maybe I was kidnapped." Chuhi shrugged and replied calmly. The blonde girl was stunned for a while because of Chuhi's words. Dead. After all, I have something to do with the Death Eaters, so I can only think so. You come home with me. My name is Cassandra, my dad is from the Ministry of Magic, he can get the order to catch that Death Eater and throw him in Azkaban. I'll help you." Quote. The blonde girl introduced herself gracefully, then grabbed Chuhi's wrist involuntarily and planned to take him away. "Ah, no need for this, thank you, but that Death Eater is dead." "Also dead." Cassandra stopped and looked at Chuhi suspiciously. "Well, I was killed several years ago, and I'm free now." Chuhi is quite fond of this blonde girl who was not intimidated even by the name of the Death Eater. After all, such brave people are rare these days. In the past, when he was enslaved by the Death Eaters, there was no one to help him in Nocturne Alley. Then you are such a small child, living alone until now. It's not too difficult. What are you going to do here in Diagon Alley?" Cassandra asked, looking at the cute black-haired and silver-eyed boy in front of her. Coupled with his tragic background, this made her feel a desire for protection. "Buy the things you need for admission to Hogwarts. I'm a freshman." Chuhi. "Wait, are you a freshman?" Cassandra was a little surprised. In fact, she was also a freshman at the age of 11 this year, but Chuhi should be younger than herself no matter what. "Yes, this is an admission letter." Chuhi took out his acceptance letter for admission to Hogwarts from his pocket. "You're 11. It doesn't look like it at all." "No, I'm 9 years old." How? Hogwarts would allow students to enter early." "Who knows, I got it anyway." "Then, let's go buy the magic items needed for learning together." "I just happened to buy them too." "It is good. It's not bad to have a beautiful woman as a companion to buy things together. This is a life experience he has never experienced before." "Then go buy a wand first." "I've already bought mine. Go and buy one for you. If you don't have money, I'll pay for it." Cassandra took Chuhi's hand to Ollivander's wand shop. "Actually, do I have a wand?" Chuhi drew a wand from his sleeve. "Have you been to Ollivander's wand shop?" "No, this is the wand I've always used, the wand left over from the Death Eater's death." Chuhi answered. "How can this work? The wand must be suitable for wizards, but you can't just pick up a wand and use it. Wands that are not suitable for wizards will cause a lot of trouble." Cassandra involuntarily took Chuhi to Ollivander's wand shop. Chuhi shrugged and tucked his wand back into his sleeve. In fact, he analyzes magic from the level of magic principles. He can cast spells even without a wand. Of course, the magic wand does increase. Since Cassandra insisted on buying one herself, let's go check it out with her, since a wand isn't very valuable anyway, and it's not a big problem to buy an extra one as a spare. Moreover, since there is no relevant information in the family of the Death Eaters, he didn't do much research on wand science. Maybe, as Cassandra said, a wand that suits him can bring him a better increase. With a clang, Cassandra pushed open the door of Ollivander's wand shop. The boxes with wands in the wand shop are neatly stacked into mountains. There are no other customers in the shop. An old man is climbing the ladder to sort out the boxes with wands. Ollivander. Miss Cassandra, what's the matter? I remember that your staff has been selected. Hearing Cassandra's voice, Ollivander turned around and saw Chu-Hee, who was being grabbed by Cassandra's wrist. Get him a wand that suits him. Cassandra pointed to Chu-Hee beside her. Sir, you don't seem to be under 11 yet, don't you? Miss Cassandra, I can't sell wands to children who don't have an admission letter to Hogwarts. You've been here before, you know the rules. Ollivander said calmly, but his eyes kept drifting towards Chu-Hee. Chu-Hee felt really strange to him, as if, none of the wands in my wand shop are suitable for this kid. No, it's more like he can use them all instead of not suitable. Anyway, this kind of thing can't happen. I have the admission letter. Chu-Hee took out the envelope and handed it to Ollivander. This, HMPH, my Chu-Hee was admitted to Hogwarts. So what are you doing? Hurry up and choose a wand that suits him. Cassandra's arrogant request, Chu-Hee on the side had to smile silently. It seems that she has been labeled as her family inexplicably. But it doesn't seem to have any harm. Pure-blooded noble wizards have a pretty high status among wizards. With Cassandra on them, it is estimated that after entering the school, there will be no trouble finding him. Just be happy to be quiet. Okay, Mr. Chu-Hee, let's try this wand, the body of Kui-Mu, the nerve of a unicorn. Ollivander pondered for a moment, and by feeling brought a wand to Chu-Hee. Chu-Hee was about to take the wand, when a yin and yang voice came from behind him. Cassandra, when did you get mixed up with such a lowly mudblood? It's detrimental to the glory of our pure-blood wizards. Draco, are you teaching me what to do? Cassandra sneered and drew her wand. Chu-Hee looked back and saw a boy with blonde hair and gray pupils standing behind him, looking at himself with disdain. I'm just reminding you not to forget who you are. Mixing with mudbloods will bring down our honor. Draco also took out his wand excitedly. He just got the wand and was looking forward to a magical duel with others. As pure-blood wizards, their parents taught them some simple magic tricks more or less. Curse. Chu-Hee picked up the wand that Ollivander handed him a little, and then Malfoy flew out of Ollivander's wand shop as if he had been kicked in the abdomen. Cassandra looked at the expressionless Chu-Hee in surprise. More than 10 seconds later, a sinister-looking middle-aged man held Draco and entered the Ollivander wand shop again. Who hurt my son? Stand up for me. Lucius, your son said I'm a mudblood, I'll take care of you, okay. Chu-Hee calmly said that when Lucius was enslaved before, he was also sent by the Death Eater to do something, but after killing the Death Eater himself, he didn't have much contact with him. Said he was hiding from himself. It's you. Shouldn't you be in Azkaban? When Lucius saw Chu-Hee, his face changed greatly, and the expressions on the faces of Cassandra and Ollivander around him also changed. Ludmith, let me out and let me go to Hogwarts. What is that guy Ludmith thinking? Lucius thought angrily in his heart, but he didn't dare to show it on his face. What, are you coming to play with me? Chu-Hee asked with a sneer. No, the dog is ignorant, and I also ask Haihan. I will teach him a lesson when I go back. Thank you for your mercy. Lucius gave Draco a slap in the face. Others may not know, but he knows that even the life-sucking charm can't kill Chu-Hee, and the unforgivable charms such as gouging the heart is invalid for him. It must be him who died in the fight with Chu-Hee. And Draco is still alive, which proves that Chu-Hee has shown mercy. No need to thank you, let's be honest, my property was confiscated by the Ministry of Magic, can you give me some? Chu-Hee was not polite to Lucius at all, and directly extorted him. If Draco had no adults at home with him, he would have thrown it out and it would have ended, but Lucius took the money bag to the door on his own initiative and did not take it. Not suitable. What's more, Lucius revealed that he had been to Azkaban. It is estimated that the friendship he had just established was gone, and he should receive some money to compensate him. Okay, the dog should be punished for ignorantly saying the wrong thing, but I hope you don't care about it again at Hogwarts, okay? A somewhat stiff smile appeared on Lucius' face, and then he asked. I'm not interested in him if he doesn't mess with me. Chuhi shrugged. Then this should be regarded as an apology. Lucius readily took out the purse from his arms and threw it to Chuhi. It would be false to say that he is not distressed, but Chuhi also said just now that he is going to enter Hogwarts. If Chuhi finds Draco to settle accounts later, and he is not around then, Draco will definitely have no good fruit to eat. He was 100% sure that Chuhi would enter Slytherin, so he might as well spend a little money to get rid of the disaster and get Chuhi's promise that Draco would not be embarrassed. It is good. Chuhi slipped the purse that Lucius threw over into the pocket that had applied the traceless stretch charm. Then we'll retire first. Lucius left Ollivander's wand shop with Draco. HMPH, it looks so domineering with such a harmless appearance, it seems that I have misunderstood. What Chuhi didn't expect was that Cassandra was not at all afraid after hearing that she had been to Azkaban, but looked at her face back and forth with interest. On the other hand, Ollivander's eyes were a little frightened. However, Chuhi can also understand Ollivander. After all, the prisoners in Azkaban are all felons in the wizarding world. Ollivander in the ordinary wizarding world will naturally be afraid of himself. Then, Master Chuhi, this wand must be very suitable for you. After all, you just knocked Mr. Drake up without a spell. Ollivander said respectfully. He would be afraid, not only because Chuhi had entered Azkaban, but also because Lucius, a pure-blood nobleman who usually showed nobility, actually gave him the money under the coercion of Chuhi. Suffice it to say that Chuhi is a lifeless master. Not to mention the casting of spells chanting, this is the first time he has seen so far, even the person whose name can't be said can't do this. Plus Chuhi entered Azkaban at such a young age, and lend him a few more courage, he didn't dare to offend Chuhi. Very suitable. No, holding this wand did not reduce my magic power consumption, let me see, let me try this. Chuhi tapped the wand in his hand, and then a dusty wand box floated out from under the counter and ended up in front of Chuhi. This is. Ollivander was silent. This wand is made of chestnut wood, with thestral tail feathers as the core. Chestnut is a very inquisitive wood and will be attracted by natural seekers, researchers, and skilled magical beast trainers, wizards gifted in herbal medicine, or natural flyers, no problem. But the problem is the thestral's tail feathers. The thestral, also known as the black demon star, is scrawny. It belongs to a kind of Pegasus, but it has bat-like wings. It is an ominous creature. Only those who have witnessed death can see the thestral. The Elder Wand is made of thestral tail feathers. The thestral's tail feathers are stained with evil attributes, and only those who can control death can control this wand. Because of this, the wand has not met its owner for decades. Coupled with a strong thirst for knowledge. If this wand is suitable for Chuhi, God knows what kind of situation Chuhi will set off in the wizarding world in the future. Putting down the wand Ollivander had picked out for himself, Chuhi opened the box and picked up the dusty wand. There was a terrifying pressure in Ollivander's wand shop. Ollivander and the surrounding wizards could not help but unconsciously lowered their heads and showed a gesture of surrender. Only Cassandra watched with hot eyes. Pick up the Chuhi of this wand. She felt like she had met her own kind, this noble aura. Cassandra's pride is not from being proud of being a pure-blood wizard, but more proud of her own excellence. Therefore, even in the face of Draco, who is also a pure-blood nobleman, she can disdain it. Whether it is a mudblood or a pure-blood noble wizard, she treats it with equal contempt, because she believes that she is born with the pride of wizards. Being in a high position made her look down on everyone and occasionally felt lonely, but the Chuhi she met today made her feel the same kind of aura. So even though all the wizards showed surrender because Chuhi touched the wand, she still held her head proudly and never lowered her head. Ollivander, who was bowing his head at this moment, was extremely shocked. With this feeling, Chuhi was undoubtedly in a dominant position. He has a hunch that this child will dominate the entire wizarding world in the future, and he may become the king of wizards. That wand is pretty good. Chuhi took out 7 gold galleons from Lucius' purse and placed them on Ollivander's counter, then put his wand back into his sleeve. Child, you. As Chuhi put away his wand, the coercion of the Dominator had disappeared. Ollivander raised his head and looked at Chuhi was about to say something, but met Chuhi's silver eyes as deep as an abyss. Then Ollivander's consciousness was dissipated, and the memory of these few minutes was immediately erased. Chu-hee, congratulations. Cassandra was about to congratulate Chu-hee, but found that Chu-hee grabbed her wrist. Then there was a click, and the figures of the two were swallowed by a vortex. Then, in the room of an old mansion in the suburbs of London, a vortex emerged again, and Chu-hee and Cassandra emerged from it. What do you want to do? Cassandra's face changed, and she took out her wand vigilantly and made a defensive gesture. Sorry, going out like that would be tantamount to revealing that one of us holds this wand. Even if I don't know much about wands, this wand should be an extremely powerful wand, and if you go out, it will lead to a large number of dark wizards will come to snatch it. I am a bit afraid of trouble, and it is very troublesome to not be able to solve those dark wizards forever, so I will take you directly to my house with apparition. Chu-hee explained. Wouldn't someone just ask Ollivander to know that it was you who took the wand? I used it to forget him, he doesn't remember us anymore. No spell singing again. Obviously you haven't entered Hogwarts yet you are proficient in so many advanced spells. Cassandra looked at Chu-hee with some admiration. I am a little interested in the principles of spells and magic, so I improved the magic a little bit. After the improvement, I don't need a wand and spells, but rely on my pupils to activate it, so it is difficult for people to guard against it, but don't tell anyone. Chu-hee opened his mouth and replied that he had already regarded her as a friend in his heart to this girl who heard that the Death Eaters were not afraid of her situation and directly helped him, and heard that he was still not afraid of her from Azkaban. She shared the secret of her improved magic. Sharing secrets is a way to quickly bring the relationship between two people closer. On the other hand, even if others know that their forgetfulness is triggered by their pupils, it is impossible to perfectly avoid their eyes. So even if the secret was leaked by Cassandra, it wouldn't hurt, and it would test her loyalty to friendship. Speaking of which, I used apparition with my dad before. At that time, I fainted for a long time and almost vomited. Your apparition didn't have much side effects this time. Have you improved this? Cassandra asked curiously. Well, the apparition journey did feel a little bad, and I suffered a lot and made a lot of changes. Chu-hee nodded in recognition. Not only did he modify the apparition's journey experience, but more of the modification was the anti-curse against apparition, because when he was rounded up by the Aurors last time, he used apparition to eat on the counter traps. It's a big loss, so during Azkaban's time, apart from using familial control magic on Dementors, he tried to modify apparition by relying on his understanding of the principles of magic. And since Azkaban is a place where apparition is forbidden, it's just the right place to use it as his spell testing ground. In addition, Azkaban's guards are irrational Dementors, the cell is also independent from other prisoners, and there is no Auror who will patrol frequently, so as long as he apparates in a small area, he will not be attacked. Fine. And in the 2 months he spent in Azkaban, he had completely perfected a new apparate in addition to ignoring the traps set for apparition. After optimizing the apparition experience, he can even use it as a teleport to fight other wizards. A large part of the reason why apparition cannot be used as a means to evade spell attacks in duels is that the use experience is too bad, which will make the human body feel in an extremely bad state, and another part is the magic for apparition. Traps, and not really instant magic. So when Chu-hee perfected these 3 aspects, apparition has been refined into an excellent combat magic. Of course, he wouldn't foolishly reveal the specific effect of the improvement to Cassandra now, but only gave her the impression that his improvement was nothing more than an improvement in the user experience. The experience under Nocturne Alley and the Death Eaters has made Chu-hee very cautious and forbearing. If the relationship goes further in the future, he will be able to teach Cassandra the magic that he has improved. It is still too late morning. But the place where you live is really a bit bad, such a family. Cassandra looked at her surroundings and commented. Well, that's not the case. After I was arrested by the Aurors from the Ministry of Magic, everything in my house was confiscated, so it would be empty. Chu-hee spread his hands. After all, he used to be with Death Eaters. He had expected that he would be arrested one day, so all the magics he improved and developed were recorded in his mind, and he did not leave any paper records. This prevents other wizards from seeing their research and using their own research spells against them. At the same time, he also improved occlumency so that legilimency could not work on him. In this way, it is done to the extent that it is foolproof. Diagon Alley. Due to the disappearance of the coercion, the nearby wizards came back to their senses and swarmed into Ollivander's wand shop, trying to see who caused the coercion just now, but Chuhi and Cassandra used it in advance. Apparating away, these wizards asked Ollivander, who had been put into oblivion. Lucius, who was about to leave, opened his mouth and looked at Ollivander's wand shop in surprise. The coercion just now was different from the coercion of his master Voldemort. Voldemort's was more inclined to domination by pure fear, but the coercion that erupted from Ollivander's wand shop was even purer. It was definitely not something that the little girl in the Cassandra family could cause, it was obviously Chuhi who stayed inside. He never expected Chuhi to have such potential. But think about it carefully, a young child who can master all kinds of unforgivable curses before the age of 10, can it be simple in the future? Not to mention that these unforgivable curses have little effect on him. He still remembered how the Death Eater who had enslaved Chuhi died. About Chuhi's immunity to unforgivable curses such as the Crusader and Cruciatus. Naturally, the Dark Wizards will not tell the Ministry of Magic. After all, once the Ministry of Magic finds out about this, they will definitely try to pry open Chuhi's mouth to learn about this method of resisting the unforgivable curse. The Dark Wizard who mastered the unforgivable curse was out of luck. In fact, if it weren't for the difficulty of Azkaban's prison robbery being too high for the Dark Wizards, some Dark Wizards have considered whether or not to rob the prison to fish Chuhi out. Most of the Dark Wizards have not learned the Patronus charm, and even if they do, their level is not very high, so Azkaban is too difficult for them. After all, the Patronus spell is a very old and very difficult defensive spell. And they couldn't kill Chuhi, so they could only think of robbing him. I didn't expect this kid to be released after only 2 months in Azkaban. That was killing muggles in public. When Lucius thought of this, he was a little worried. Could it be that Chuhi told the Ministry of Magic how he defended against the unforgivable curse? In that case, the sentence will indeed be commuted in the form of meritorious deeds. No, he went to explore Ludemus's tone. This Dark Wizard's Day, I am afraid that it will undergo earth-shaking changes because of one of Chuhi's actions. Those 2 god muggles, what a hell of a crime. Dark Wizards rely on these evil and powerful spells to harm people. It is terrifying. If Chuhi reveals his secrets to the Ministry of Magic, then their Dark Wizards really have no future. Thinking of this, Lucius put his hand on Draco's shoulder. There was a clatter, and the vortex suddenly swallowed the figures of the 2. In Malfoy manner, Draco, who had just emerged from the vortex of apparition, lay on the ground and vomited, but Lucius didn't even look at him, and walked quickly to the family vault to get some gold plus Ryu, then apparated again to visit Ludmus. After all, this guy Ludemus has a lot of appetite, don't try to find out anything if he doesn't give him some favors, and he used all the money just now to make amends for Chuhi. In the Azkaban warden's office, Ludmus was reading a magic daily, praising the day that Chuhi was away. After Chuhi left, the enthusiasm of the Dementors increased significantly, and sure enough, that kid did something to the Dementors here. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Your Excellency the Warden, Lucius Malfoy is here to visit you. A subordinate reported from outside the door. Ah, it's Lucius, please invite him in. Ludemus, who was in a good mood because Chuhi left, said happily. On the other hand, he had just been blackmailed by Chuhi, and Lucius, as a pure-blood noble family, was very rich. He also gave a lot of shots, and the god of wealth naturally greeted him with a smile when he came to the door. Yes. A few minutes later, Lucius pushed the door and walked into Ludmus's office. Lord Lucius, long time no see, what brought you here? Ludmus got up to meet him. I don't speak secretly anymore. Chuhi has killed 2 muggles. Why would Azkaban let such a villain leave? You can't say that he changed his mind in 2 months, right? Lucius asked straight to the point. Being imprisoned in Azkaban does not mean permanent imprisonment. As long as the wizard truly repents, there is still a chance to get out, but he does not feel that Chuhi was released because of repentance. Hey, such a small child has to be tortured by Dementors all day long in our Azkaban. As an adult, I really can't stand it. You know, the punishment of Dementors is so horrible. Seeing that Lucius was asking about Chuhi, Ludemus immediately became official. Lucius took out his wand and cast a silent spell to seal off the sound, then grabbed a golden gallon from the purse and put it on Ludmus's desk. "So what is the truth?" Lucius asked again. He had dealt with Ludmus a lot, and he naturally knew that Ludmus was not a master who would let people out because of pity in his heart. "Hey, that kid is too evil. The Dementors have come to entertain him one by one in the first 2 weeks of coming here, but he doesn't even cry, and the expression on his face doesn't have a trace of pain. It's creepy to see." In the next month and a half, the Aurors under my command found that the Dementors ignored him, and as you know, the guard system of Azkaban prison is completely maintained by Dementors. We estimate that we won't be able to keep him locked up if we continue to imprison him. If the time comes, it will be shameful for us to escape from prison, so we will send him out by the way. Ludmus answered while taking gin galleon, which Lucius had brought to bribe him, into his purse. Hearing Lou Demis's answer, Lucius breathed a sigh of relief, but what followed was even more shock. Dementors, are all those things useless to Chu-He? The last person who could ignore Dementors was his master Voldemort, but Voldemort was not as scary as Chu-He when he was 9 years old. After learning all kinds of magic at Hogwarts, he was more scary and evil than Dementors. But Chu-He, he's only 9 years old this year. He never even entered Hogwarts, he was raised by a Death Eater, how could he have such a terrifying potential? Did he use the Patronus charm? Lucius opened his mouth and asked that the reason why he asked this question was because Chu-He had never used the Patronus charm when fighting in Nocturne Alley in the past, and he personally judged that Chu-He did not know this magic. How is it possible, such a small child, do you think he can use such a powerful defensive spell? Not to mention that the wand is still with us. Ludmus rolled his eyes, he felt that Lucius was a little out of his mind today. How could a child as young as Chu-He use the Patronus charm? It's just that Dementors aren't only the Patronus charm to resist. Lucius continued to extend the topic. Hey, as soon as I say this, I feel evil. I have been the warden for so many years, and this is the first time I have encountered such a evil kid. Doesn't he have any happy memories in his heart that can be absorbed by the Dementors? It's really dark. Like a little devil in the abyss. Ludmus's words made Lucius suddenly realize that Chu-He, who had been enslaved by Death Eaters since childhood, naturally couldn't have any good memories. He only had darkness and revenge in his heart, and the Dementors naturally couldn't take anything away from him. He thought Chu-He had already started taming the Dementors in Azkaban, but that would be horrible. I remember he was raised by Death Eaters, and I'm afraid he really doesn't have any good memories. Lucius answered, but he just happened to help Chu-He in a cover unconsciously. Hearing what Lucius said, Ludmus also felt relieved about Chu-He's desire to take a Dementor, and regarded it as a child's word. Chu-He, you don't have anything to miss at home, right? Why don't you stay at my house a few days before school starts? Cassandra opened her mouth to invite. Well, I'm going to Hogwarts in 2 days. I plan to miss my past life here. Chu-He politely declined Cassandra's invitation. After all, most of the pure-blood nobles were similar to Lucius, and looked down on mixed-race and ordinary wizards. And Cassandra's elegant demeanor is obviously impossible to be a wizard of an ordinary family. Lucius was okay, he knew what he was doing in Nocturne Alley and didn't dare to underestimate himself. But if I went to her house with Cassandra, I wouldn't be able to teach them a lesson if her parents looked at me. After all, she was Cassandra's parent, so it's best not to go. After all, in the wizarding world, a pure-blood wizard bringing an ordinary wizard home is like picking up beggars on the road, and it is normal to be looked down upon. I see, then, after buying the robes, let's go to school on the Hogwarts Express the day after tomorrow. Seeing that Chu-He did not intend to accept her invitation, Cassandra was not angry, but planned to go to school together. It is good. Afterwards, Chu-He apparated again with Cassandra back to Diagon Alley and bought various other items required for admission to Hogwarts. Finally, the two made an appointment to meet on platform 9 3/4 of the day after King's Cross Station, and Cassandra parted with Chu-He. Chu-He, who separated from Cassandra, did not go home directly, but wandered in Nocturne Alley. The books he had previously researched on spells were confiscated by the Ministry of Magic, and if he wanted to continue his research, he had to have some information. After going to Hogwarts, I am afraid that he can no longer come to Nocturne Alley casually. He has to purchase all kinds of research materials that may be used in the next semester within these 2 days. That's another reason why he didn't accept Cassandra's invitation to stay at her house. Chu-hee, who was wandering in Nocturne Alley, could feel some ill-conceived eyes from time to time. He had thought about whether to buy a mask and bring it on to hide his identity, but after thinking about it, he would be a person of his age who would go shopping in Nocturne Alley. He is also Chu-hee. Even if he wears a mask to hide his face, people can recognize him by his body, so he simply doesn't do these superfluous things. Walking around, Chu-hee came to the biggest store in Nocturne Alley. Bogenbok Store. This is the largest shop in Nocturne Alley, specializing in black magic items. Only from the fact that the largest store can stand still, you can see the strength of the Bogenbok Store. After all, this is Nocturne Alley. If 2 brushes hadn't opened a store here, they would have been robbed by dark wizards and Death Eaters. When Chu-hee was enslaved by the Death Eaters in his early years, he would be arranged to buy something here from time to time, and after the Death Eaters were killed by himself, he still did not give up this shop, because there are indeed many good things in it. Although it is big, most are dangerous. Entering the store, a man is sitting bent over behind the counter, constantly combing the greasy hair hanging down his face with his hands. Yo, here you are. After seeing Chu-hee, Bo-jin showed a shrewd smile unique to a businessman. Chu-hee was not very petty when he came to buy things, and he often visited his shop and sold some legacy of dark wizards or Death Eaters, so he told Chu-hee his relationship is not bad. If there are any good things that Chu-hee likes, he will leave them to Chu-hee if others don't charge too high a price. At that time, after hearing that Chu-hee was arrested in Azkaban, he felt a little pity for the loss of a high-quality client. He really didn't expect to meet again so soon. Yeah, is there anything good recently? Chu-hee searched for a dazzling array of black magic items in Borkin's shop. There is, but it is dangerous. Bo-jin stopped what he was doing, stood up from behind the counter, closed the door of the store, and then hung up a sign that suspended business. Do you see me as someone who is afraid of danger? Chu-hee asked back. Not like, but I still don't want to lose a quality customer like you. Borgin, who was back at the counter, answered. So what is it? Seeing that Bo-jin was so serious, Chu-hee put down the search for other items, went to the counter and floated into the air with a levitation spell, then volleyed and sat down to look at Bo-jin. A book. What book? The Worst of Magic, written by Godalot, who had the Elder Wand as a guide, and who wrote this book based on his knowledge of wands. I don't know what's written in this book, because over the long years he has been put on multiple curses by someone, and I don't know how many wizards have died because of these curses, but come to me and sell this book. 5 of the 6 companions of the Dark Wizard of the book died as a result. Bo-jin replied with a serious look. That does look dangerous. Chu-hee nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, you have brought me a lot of business in the past few years. I believe that as long as you continue to live, we will eventually become the closest partners. You will bring me great wealth, but I also know you. I'm sure you'll be interested in this book and understand what you're here for, but do you still want this book? Bo-jin opened his mouth to confirm that he was a businessman, and selling the book to Chu-hee would naturally get a good income, but in the long run, if Chu-hee died because of this book, it would be a kind of loss for him. Lost, so he will speak to persuade Chu-hee. Well, yes, I lived in fear of death every day in the bondage of the Death Eaters, and now I'm used to it. If you don't touch this book, you will definitely not die, and the killing curse will not work on you, right? Bo-jin spoke up and persuaded. The killing curse is not the only spell that can deprive others of life. There are many black magics, and I have only studied some of the more commonly used ones, but there must be people who master black magics that I don't understand. To give a simple example, if the curse in this book really has the ability to kill me, then it means that the wizard who cursed it can also kill me, and I will be powerless to fight back against him. With just research, I could spend a lot of time deciphering the curse on it. Chu-hee answered. If he can decipher this magic book written by the owner of the old wand, his understanding of all kinds of magic will be closer. This book is an irresistible treasure trove for him. In terms of risk and reward, the risk is worth taking. He can have the strength of the Death Eaters such as Lucius today, which is completely true, because he is constantly taking risks and wandering back and forth on the edge of life and death. Looks like I can't stop you. Borgin gave a wry smile. Yeah, but my property was confiscated, and now there are only more than 600 gold galleons. Chuhi went straight to the showdown. Hehe, I can't sell this book to anyone other than you, and it's useless to keep it. You and I have traded for so many years, so I'll give it to you. If you die, I will treat it as a failure of my investment. If you successfully crack the curse on this magic book, take care of me in the future. As he spoke, Borgin took out a large iron box with an ominous aura from the dark compartment under the counter. There is this most evil magic book in it. I learned from the dark wizard who sold it to me that it has at least a death spell that will be attacked when touched, so when transferring, use a levitation spell. Control, turning pages depends on magic power, and other death methods are very inexplicable, such as suicide after reading the contents of the book, or losing reason and casting a life-threatening spell on a companion. Bo Jin opened the lid of the large iron box with his wand while reminding, and inside was a black purple-covered magic book that exuded the aura of calamity. Whoa, that's really funny. After seeing this magic book, Chuhi's eyes suddenly lit up. With his understanding of the principles of magic, there are 3 kinds of magic attached to the cover of this book. One of them is that the organs of the body will weaken rapidly after being touched. Death magic, and the remaining 2 add a dissolution attribute to the magic in the toucher's body. These are all curse magics that he has never seen before, but fortunately, the composition principle of magic is the same. He can analyze these curse magics to a certain extent through the attached magic power, thereby creating counter curses for defense. At that time, you only need to buy some guinea pigs, use the anti-curse on them, and then touch the magic book to verify whether you have successfully cracked the relevant curse. You seem confident. Seeing Chuhi with bright eyes, Bo Jin smiled. He hoped that Chuhi could successfully parse this magic book and become a great wizard in the future. At that time, he could be considered a backstage. Chuhi is worth making such an investment. Well, I'm very satisfied. Although I don't have much money now, and I will buy some materials to break the curse in the future, I'll make you a defensive magic tool. As long as you wear it, you can ignore the attack of the death curse. Can this kind of thing really be done? Bo Jin looked at Chuhi in surprise. He admitted that he was envious of Chuhi's ability to evade the attack of the life-threatening curse, but he did not expect that Chuhi could even make related defensive magic equipment. It seems that the most evil magic book he presented to him really made him happy, and he was willing to make this defensive magic tool for himself. A defensive magic tool that can ignore the life-threatening curse. This is a life-saving artifact. Especially in this nocturne alley where dark wizards are rampant. Although his Bo Jin strength is good, but he is not immune to the curse. I can do it, but I need a powerful tool that can carry magic. I don't have it on hand now, and I may have to spend time looking for it. Look at this one. It has a very powerful iron armor charm and stop charm attached to it. Borkin took off the pendant hanging around his neck and handed it to Chuhi. It should be possible. I'll come back to you when I'm done. You should stay in the store for the past 2 days. Chuhi said. Okay, take whatever else you fancy in the store. Bo Jin waved his hand generously and said that an evil magic book that he received easily could be exchanged for a life-saving artifact. He simply earned a lot of money. I don't have much time now to identify what works for me one by one. I have to go to Hogwarts the day after tomorrow to get them. These are more than 100 gold galleons. You can buy 200 guinea pigs for me. A miniature breeding box for them to grow and reproduce, and store their food and water in it. I will use it later, and I will be back before the day after tomorrow. Chuhi took out the purse that Lucius gave him and put it in front of Borgin. Okay, no problem at all. Bo Jin agreed immediately. Then Chuhi put the iron box containing the most evil magic book into the pocket that stretched the unmarked stretch spell, turned around and left Borgin's store, apparated back home and began to inscribe Borgin's pendant. To resist the anti-curse of the life-suppressing curse. Inscription is not something that can be achieved just by applying a series of anti-curse incantations. The trigger of a magic spell is related to the total amount of magic power held by the user. For example, when a weak wizard uses a smashing spell to attack a human, it can only explode 1 wound at most, but when a powerful wizard uses a smashing spell, it can destroy the enemy exploded to pieces. The life-threatening curse anti-curse he developed provides the function of defending the life-threatening curse, but the operation of this function also requires magic power to operate. Even if it is the Avada death spell, if a fledgling wizard uses it to blast Dumbledore, Dumbledore will not die even if he is cursed. This is because the magic power between the two is very different. Wen is unable to open such a huge gap. From the magic principle researched by Chu He, it can be seen that the life-suppressing spell is a firearm with excellent lethality, while the magic of the wizard can be regarded as a bullet, and the magic of the enemy wizard can be regarded as a defense, armor. The life-sucking charm can concentrate the magic power of the wizard on one point to pierce the attack of the enemy wizard, so as to easily kill the enemy when the difference between the magic power of the two is not too great. But when faced with a legendary wizard like Dumbledore, his magic power will be equivalent to a thick city wall, so the life-threatening curse released by ordinary Death Eaters cannot kill Dumbledore. And his Chu-Hi's defense method is different from Dumbledore. He destroys the life-threatening spell itself, similar to removing the trigger, so that the spell cannot be fully cast, so it does not require too strong magic power. But having said that, it also takes magic to remove the trigger used to trigger it, so he had to first inscribe a magic circle of energy storage on Borgin's pendant. The second is the magic circle that supplies energy to the energy storage magic circle. When the magic energy in the energy storage magic circle is consumed, it will slowly absorb the magic energy from the wearer to replenish it. The last is to use the energy storage magic circle as the energy supply basis, and the anti-curse against a life-suppressing curse. He has to complete these processes before the day after tomorrow, which is definitely not easy, so he will let Bo Jin help him buy a guinea pig to be a dead ghost. The reason why he did this for Bo Jin is because he doesn't like to owe others favors. On the other hand, Bo Jin can be regarded as a high-quality partner, and his survival will be of great help to himself. In the early morning 2 days later, it was just dawn, and a vortex appeared in Bojanbok's store, and then Chu-Hi, who was pale, appeared from it. Hey, Borkin, when your things are done, the anti-curse will also consume mana. After being attacked by the death-slaying charm, the mana in the pendant will be slowly absorbed from your body when the mana in the pendant is insufficient. Chu-Hi shouted. Bo Jin, who was lying dozing on the chair, slowly opened his eyes and took the pendant that Chu-Hi ran over. Thank you very much, the miniature breeding box you want and the mice are in the small box on the counter. Borgin pointed to the box on the counter. Would you like to test it to reassure you? As Chu-Hi spoke, he opened the box and fished out a white mouse. Of course it's better to be able to test. Bo Jin handed the pendant to Chu-Hi, and Chu-Hi directly wrapped the pendant around the mouse, and then pulled out his wand from his sleeve. Quickly imprisoned. The guinea pig, who was dragging the pendant, was immediately stagnant and unable to move. Avada Kedavra. A dazzling evil green light instantly hit the mouse. Stop the curse. The stop curse released the fast imprisoning the mouse, and the mouse was caught by Chu-Hi just as he was about to escape. It's done. Chu-Hi untied the pendant wrapped around the mouse, then stuffed the mouse into the miniature breeding box, then closed the lid and stuffed it into the pocket where he had cast the traceless stretch charm. Bo Jin took over the pendant that was engraved with the anti-curse by Chu-Hi, and played with joy. I'm leaving. In such a hurry, why don't you stay for breakfast? Bo Jin, who got the life-saving artifact, warmly invited him. I have to catch that train called the Hogwarts Express. I haven't been to Hogwarts, but I can't apparate over there. If I miss it, I'll have a headache. Chu-Hi replied that he must also go to Hogwarts. After all, most Aurors were trained in regular schools like Hogwarts. He had to go to Hogwarts to learn and analyze some special spell. To defeat the enemy, you have to understand the enemy, not to mention that a wizard who is inclined to dark wizards like himself will face Dumbledore one day, so it is the best strategy to observe him first as a student. Really, then I wish you a smooth journey. Wait, give me some Muggle bills, my previous bills were confiscated by the Ministry of Magic, and now I don't have their bills, I can't get a ride to that station when I go out. Chu-Hi asked for it. Give. Bo Jin readily handed Chu-Hi dozens of pounds, and after stuffing the money into his pocket, Chu-Hi immediately left Nocturne Alley. Stopped a taxi on the road and Chu-Hi got into the co-pilot. King's Cross. Little guy, are you rich? King's Cross is not near here. The Muggle driving looked suspiciously at Chu-Hi and asked. That's enough. Chu-Hi took out a £20 bill and handed it to the driver. You didn't run away from home, did you? After the driver took the pound, he started the taxi and accosted him casually. Drive your car. Chuhi replied indifferently that he somehow knew that ordinary muggles could not know the existence of wizards, and it was not good to talk too much with muggles. The arrogant driver had to shut his mouth. After arriving at King's Cross, Chuhi bought a ticket and walked quickly through King's Cross. There were quite a few peers pushing carts nearby, apparently all of them going to Hogwarts. One of them was a brunette boy pushing a cart, looking at him with pity, as if he were looking at a muggle. It seems that he is regarded as a muggle because he does not push a cart with luggage, but in fact Chuhi's luggage is stored in the pockets of the traceless stretching charm that he has improved. In fact, the unmarked stretching spell, as a high-level spell, is strictly controlled by the Ministry of Magic because of its potential for abuse. It is not allowed for private use, and can only be used to produce school trunks and family tents with the permission of the Ministry of Magic. However, Chuhi has even entered Azkaban, and he is also very familiar with the unforgivable curse, so naturally he will not go to the Ministry of Magic. Moreover, his improved traceless stretching spell is different from the ordinary traceless stretching charm. Anyone who stretches his hand into the ordinary traceless stretching spell can take out something from it, but his improved one needs to use a special small-scale magic, otherwise the storage will be the same as the normal space without the traceless stretching spell, which is equivalent to an extra lock, and it is also difficult to be checked out. Chuhi is also too lazy to care about the chestnut-haired boy. That's what small people are like. He always likes to look for superiority everywhere. He has experienced the Death Eater Dark Wizard Dementor. Ignoring the chestnut-haired boy who was looking for superiority in himself, Chuhi looked at platform 9 3/4 with interest. This 9 3/4 platform is a big deal. 3 very complex magics are engraved on it. One of them is a powerful ignore magic, which makes muggles basically do not notice the area at the entrance of the station. The possibility of a muggle straying into a magical station. Second is a very subtle camouflage magic that forged the entrance to the station into a pillar. Finally, there is a speed detection magic. Only when you reach a certain speed, you can pass the platform 9 3/4, which prevents muggles from falling into the magic zone because they are unconsciously leaning on it. Are you a muggle wondering why someone can suddenly get in? Don't think about it, it's impossible for a muggle like you to get in. The chestnut-haired boy pushing the trolley said triumphantly. Interesting, you are trying to reveal the existence of wizards to ordinary people. Maybe I should report your behavior to the Ministry of Magic. Maybe you will be disqualified from Hogwarts. The proud smile on the chestnut-haired boy's face instantly vanished, turning into a tragic expression as if seeing the end. For most young wizards, Hogwarts is a holy place in their hearts, and it is only there that they can learn magic, if they are expelled as soon as they get an acceptance letter. It was an absolute nightmare. HMPH, idiot. Chuhi sneered. Chuhi, you came quite early. Chuhi looked back, and Cassandra was walking towards him carrying a delicate suitcase. I just arrived a while ago. Chuhi answered. Why are you so pale? Cassandra frowned slightly. I just didn't sleep well last night. Chuhi replied with a smile. In fact, the reason why he basically hadn't slept for the past 2 days was to inscribe the anti-curse of the life-threatening curse on Bo Jin. Sure enough, you should go to my house to rest that day. Really, if you break your body at the beginning of school, you will suffer a lot. Cassandra blamed Chuhi a little unhappily. Miss Cassandra, you know him. The chestnut-haired boy just now looked at Cassandra who was communicating with Chuhi in surprise. Cassandra's family is well known in the wizarding world, and Cassandra is also an extremely arrogant person. How could she talk to a peer like Chuhi? Could it be that he offended the eldest young master of a certain noble family just now? But on second thought, Chuhi didn't even bring his luggage, so he wasn't from the wizarding world after all, right? Who's here? For the chestnut-haired boy who spoke to her, Cassandra raised her head arrogantly and looked down at him. I'm Sheila Dandelion, we met at a party 2 years ago. The chestnut-haired boy explained awkwardly. Really, you are too uncharacteristic to be remembered by me. Cassandra said proudly. Come on, Chuhi, pick a good spot, I don't want to be in the hallway. After Cassandra finished speaking, she hurriedly walked into the platform 9 3/4 with a delicate suitcase, and mercilessly left Salata to the side. Chuhi also walked quickly to platform 9 3/4. Passing through the wall, Chuhi saw the Hogwarts Express train. At this time, there were many students pushing luggage on the platform. Cassandra had walked towards a carriage with graceful steps full of confidence. Cassandra's outstanding appearance and noble temperament attracted many students around to stop and watch, and she herself enjoyed this sense of attention. "Oh, the freshmen who haven't entered school are so arrogant, don't you say hello when you see senior." A girl who looked slightly older than Cassandra stood in front of Cassandra. "Vanessa, don't think you can put me on my head a year before I entered school. If you think I'm arrogant, then come to a duel." Cassandra sneered and drew out her wand and pointed contemptuously at the girl's nose. "Hey, then let me teach you the dignity you should have towards senior sister." Vanessa also pulled out her wand, and the new students around became excited. They didn't expect to see the legendary magic duel in advance here. Leg lock curse. Vanessa flicked her staff, and a silver light flew towards Cassandra's leg. Fuchsia. The two magics hit each other at the same time, and Cassandra was unable to walk for a while, but Vanessa was directly thrown into the air, and her skirt fell down under the influence of gravity, revealing her black panties. Suddenly screaming and pulling up her skirt, trying to cover her spring. Cassandra, on the other hand, unhurriedly used a spell on herself to stop the leg-locking spell that Vanessa had cast on herself. "Ha, slut, who are you going to seduce when you dress like this when you're 12? Cassandra sneered at Vanessa. Smashed to pieces. At this time, a white magic light flew into the crowd and hit Cassandra's face directly. As she did not expect that someone would sneak attack, Cassandra only had time to turn her head and move her gaze to the direction of the smashing spell. But just as Cassandra was about to be hit, an invisible wall blocked the shattering curse. Seeing this invisible wall, Cassandra's eyes suddenly lit up. Obviously, Chuhi helped put the armor spell. Sneak attack in a magic duel, you have the potential to be a dark wizard, eh? A 13-year-old boy flew from the air and fell heavily in front of Cassandra, while Chuhi walked to Cassandra's side. "Well done, as expected of someone I like." Cassandra glanced at Chuhi with satisfaction. "How do you deal with this guy?" Chuhi pointed with his wand at the boy whose nose was bruised. With his previous character, it would naturally kill 100 people, but this would be in the public eye. Not to mention killing him, it wouldn't work to throw him a heartbreaker, so he handed over the decision to Cassandra. HMPH, the flames are blazing. With Cassandra's wand, the boy's pants were instantly ignited by the flames, and he rolled on the ground in pain. Gone. After throwing a fire spell, Cassandra walked towards the Hogwarts Express arrogantly, and the surrounding people spontaneously made way for Cassandra and Chuhi. Clear springs like water. A naive child's voice came from behind. Chuhi looked back, and a certain brown-haired loli was waving a wand and throwing a ball of water polo on the boy, but at this time the boy's pants were completely burned, covering his vital parts. He ran away from the crowd and ran to the corner. After getting on the Hogwarts Express, Cassandra found an vacant carriage and greeted Chuhi to sit in, then swung her wand and closed the door of the carriage. "Good job just now, thank you." Cassandra gracefully placed her right leg on top of her left, with a charming smile on her face. "We're friends, it's a trivial matter." "Hey," I said, "which branch are you going to go to?" Cassandra asked. "Which branch?" Chuhi tilted his head, a little confused. "No, do you know nothing about Hogwarts?" "Well, I don't know much. I only know that the headmaster is Albus Dumbledore. I used to study spells most of the time." Chuhi answered. Then let me teach you a good lesson. Hogwarts is a school of magic with a long tradition and the best, with 4 branches, namely Slytherin, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff and Gryffindor. Among them, Slytherin is the best branch for those with aspirations and ambitions, Ravenclaw is a group of nerds, Hufflepuff is a group of good-hearted idiots, and Gryffindor is a group of prudish wizards. "Will you come with me Slytherin?" Cassandra said forcefully. "You really have a big opinion on the other 3 branches." Chuhi said jokingly. "I'm just telling the truth. Why, you don't want to go to Slytherin with me?" Cassandra frowned unhappily and looked at Chuhi with some anger. "Don't worry, I will go to Slytherin with you, but the other 3 branches have their own characteristics, right? If it is really as bad as you said, then Hogwarts will have only 1 branch left in Slytherin, already." Chuhi assured that after living in the Dark Wizard group for many years, Chuhi's way of thinking is actually more inclined to adults, and his view of a thing is more inclined to look at it from an objective point of view, rather than a personal emotion, bias. After all, whether it is in the study of magic spells or dealing with dark wizards, a small mistake can lead to serious consequences. Intelligence gathering is a very important thing. Since he was previously detained in Azkaban, he was directly arranged to go to Hogwarts after he came out, and he did not have time to collect information on Hogwarts in advance, so he planned to get some more information from Cassandra, objective information. It's pretty much the same, the other three branches. Ravenclaw just likes to study and has no ambitions. The wizards who come out are relatively mediocre wizards. Most wizards have entered the academic world, and Hufflepuff is not aware of people, for the sake of some rigid rules will push their relatives and friends out to be punished, and the Ministry of Magic likes such rigid honest people. You go to Slytherin with me, I will definitely cover you, and no matter what you do, I will stand by you. Cassandra assured with a sincere look that she really liked Chuhi very much. Even though she was so young, she kept it hidden, and she didn't behave like that idiot in the Malfoy family who had no skills and was domineering everywhere. Draco, looking so handsome and cute, she really wanted to keep Chuhi by her side. What about Gryffindor? Gryffindors are just a bunch of hot-blooded idiots, and I'm not going to change that. Cassandra persisted. After Cassandra said this, Chuhi also judged that Slytherin was the only academy suitable for him. Since the people of Hufflepuff are ignorant of people, what they do in the future will definitely run counter to the entire academy, and it must be very uncomfortable to live in that kind of academy. And Gryffindor people tend to be hot-blooded. This kind of person is easy to act impulsive with a little provocation. As a teammate, it is very troublesome and not easy to control. Since Hogwarts is divided into 4 divisions, there will definitely be competition among the divisions. Cassandra is so hostile to Gryffindor, which can also be proved from the side. Ravenclaw is quite suitable for a wizard who likes to study spells in terms of atmosphere, but on the one hand, going to Ravenclaw by himself will definitely make Cassandra dissatisfied, and the first friend he just made may break up because of this. On the other hand, there will definitely be a clear leader among the students in each branch. If the students in Ravenclaw are obsessed with research, they may be promoted to the position of the leader if they show a little bit of performance. After that, all kinds of troublesome things will follow in the whole branch, so he won't have much time to study the spell. Chuhi still has some understanding of his own temper. He is the type of person who is unhappy and does nothing. When he goes to Ravenclaw, he must either suppress his normal temper or be promoted to the position of representative. At that time, a position against Cassandra is likely to appear to a large extent. But you don't have to worry about that when you go to Slytherin. Cassandra is obviously a wizard who likes to attract attention, and since she has mastered the fuchsia charm before she even enters school, the flames and the curse stand still, she has nothing to do with it. Undoubtedly a very talented wizard. Chuhi is basically certain that Cassandra can become the pride of Slytherin, and even if she encounters obstacles, it is not a big problem to have herself on the side. At that time, she will be in charge of the things that the Slytherin branch needs to take care of, and she can concentrate on studying various spells. On the other hand, the pride of a college must have a good relationship with the professors of its branch. Even if you do something, as long as it is not too much, if Cassandra helps her to say good things to the professors, to a large extent, you can a lot of convenience. This is the so-called worldly knowledge. Speaking of which, do you know the girl who confronted you just now? After analyzing which branch he is suitable for, Chuhi asked. Ah, you said that Penesses is my old enemy. She used to fight against me in everything I did, but I'm much better than her. I have mastered a lot of magic by reading the spell book at home, so she never beat me once. Looking at her wearing black panties, she must have used her body to catch senior wizards in school. The guy you caught and attacked me must be the concubine she was looking for in school. Cassandra said disdainfully. So that's the case. Which branch is she from? Slytherin. I'll definitely want her to look good when I get to school. She's a disgrace to Slytherin. Cassandra said with disgust. I'm sure she'll be miserable. At this moment, Chuhi's stomach growled inappropriately. Forehead. You didn't have breakfast. Cassandra looked at Chuhi with a smile on her face. Usually Chuhi is too calm. This contrast makes her feel that Chuhi is very cute. Ah, I left in a hurry in the morning and didn't have time to eat. Chuhi looked away and scratched his hair embarrassingly. This is indeed a bit embarrassing. Then you're quite lucky. I asked my servants to make delicious desserts today, so I'll share them with you on purpose. Cassandra opened the exquisite suitcase, and then took out a food container with food preservation magic and put it on the small table in the carriage. Inside the food box is a row of neat and colorful macarons. Cassandra picked up a sky blue macaron with her white fingers and brought it to Chuhi's mouth. Ah, cough, I can eat by myself, Chuhi said with a blushing face. But I want to feed you. In terms of age, I'm a big sister. You can just listen to me here. I wouldn't call you sister, would you? That's okay, I just want to feed you. Okay, open your mouth. You're the only one I want to feed, just open your mouth and eat it. Cassandra demanded strongly. What? There's no point in arguing about this on purpose. Since Cassandra wants to feed herself, let her be happy. Chuhi honestly opened her mouth and let Cassandra feed herself macarons. It was getting late, and the speed of the Hogwarts Express gradually slowed down. Cassandra called out Chuhi, who was lying on the small table to catch up on sleep. A few minutes later, the Hogwarts Express came to a complete stop. When Cassandra and Chuhi walked out of the car, the aisle that was still noisy suddenly fell silent. The students who were eager to get off the car subconsciously returned to the car and made way for the two of them. After all, the third-year student who attacked Cassandra before was still in a state of embarrassment with his shirt on and his ass in his shirt. They didn't dare to provoke Cassandra and Chuhi. In this way, like a proud queen, Cassandra took Chuhi off the train unimpeded, and a giant with a lantern appeared in front of the two. Welcome to Hogwarts, just so many freshmen this year. The tall giant made a somewhat puzzled sound. Due to Cassandra and Chuhi, only a few students who were close to the car door got out of the car first, and the rest of the students stayed in the car and did not dare to disturb Cassandra. What about La and Chuhi? They're still behind. Okay, wait for me here. Okay, freshmen, don't be shy, come down quickly. The tall giant stuck his head into the carriage and shouted in a deafeningly loud voice. Seeing the presence of the Hogwarts teacher, the other students got off the train one after another. Who burned his pants? Soon, the tall giant angrily walked to the train with Panessa and the third-year boy who attacked Cassandra. At this time, Panessa was sobbing with tears in her face, and the third-year boy also pointed to Cassandra indignantly. Obviously, Panessa, the wicked man and woman, sued first. It's you. Hagrid looked at Cassandra suspiciously. After all, he had an impression of all the students at Hogwarts. He couldn't have seen such a proud student as Cassandra without being impressed. This means that Cassandra is this year's newborn. A freshman burned the pants of a third grader and bullied a second grader with the fuchsia spell. It's not realistic. It's me, do you want me to burn his clothes again to show you? Cassandra freely admitted what she had done, and Hagrid's impression of her dropped a bit. You learned magic duels before you even entered school. You seriously violated the rules of Hogwarts, do you know that? Hagrid yelled loudly. Why didn't you ask me why I burned his pants? After I won a magical duel with Panessa, he attacked me with a shattering charm outside the crowd. Is it too much for me to burn his pants? Cassandra let out a sneer, facing Hagrid, who was much taller than herself, without a trace of fear, still proudly raising her pretty face. How could a freshman who has not yet entered the school cope with the smashing curse of the third-year student's sneak attack, and you are unscathed? Hagrid questioned, turning his eyes to the other students. It's just that he didn't notice that the third-year student standing a little behind him was staring at these freshmen with fierce and resentful eyes, conveying that whoever came out to testify for Cassandra, he would take revenge on him. Professor, it was indeed this senior who blocked her way first and had a magical duel with her. After the defeat, the boy attacked her with a smashing spell, but she blocked the smashing spell with her armor. My name is Hermione Granger. I am willing to take responsibility for what I say. The brown-haired lowly, who had previously extinguished the flames on the boy's body with the clear spring spell, stood up, which instantly made the expression on the third-year boy's face a lot darker. He never expected that Hermione, the one who saved him, would now run over to help Chuhi and them. You five, come with me to see the principal later. Now, everyone is on the boat, we are going to be late. After someone testified, Hagrid couldn't come to a conclusion for a while, so he waved his hand and greeted the students to take a boat across the river to Hogwarts Castle. "See, that chestnut-haired one, she will definitely be assigned to Gryffindor," Cassandra said to Chuhi unabashedly. "Thank you for your compliment, I'm proud of my Gryffindor," Hermione replied humbly. "HMPH, I didn't praise you." Cassandra turned her head away, looking as though she didn't intend to continue communicating with Hermione. "But that's a compliment to me. Che, the headache guy, Chuhi, let's go." Cassandra greeted Chuhi and walked to a small boat. And Draco Malfoy in the crowd walked towards the boat away from Cassandra and Chuhi with his 2 attendants. He had also seen Cassandra in the crowd before, and at this time he was a little fortunate that his father arrived at the wand shop that day. Otherwise, at his level, I'm afraid it won't be a pig head for Cassandra and Chuhi. Although he was a little dissatisfied in his heart, he did not intend to fight against these 2 people for the time being in the future. Draco decided to learn some powerful magic at Hogwarts, and then consider whether to avenge the humiliation of the wand shop. When all the students got on the boat, Hagrid shook the lantern in his hand, and all the boats slowly sailed towards the mysterious castle shrouded in clouds without any other power. The new students sitting on the boat were excited by this mysterious atmosphere, and soon they were about to enter the world of magic from the world of ordinary people. "Have you heard that Harry Potter is coming to Hogwarts?" "No, really. That Harry Potter?" Murmurs came from the other boats. "Who is Harry Potter?" Chuhi talked to Cassandra curiously, because Cassandra was born with a noble atmosphere, so he was sitting with Cassandra on the ship. "You don't know this, your news is really locked. Harry Potter, when you were born, it was an era when mysterious people were rampant, when Death Eaters were rampant, and no other wizards knew whether they could see it or not. Tomorrow's sun, but when the mysterious man went to attack Harry Potter, he suddenly disappeared. Anyway, I don't believe a baby can do this, you don't need to pay too much attention to him," Cassandra answered. "Oh. On this point, Chuhi agrees with Cassandra that a baby can't kill Voldemort. Having been enslaved by a Death Eater, he often hears the Death Eater brag about how powerful and terrible his master Voldemort is, so Chuhi didn't think Voldemort was dead. But for Voldemort, Chuhi has no fear. After all, he specializes in black magic. Although he is not sure of winning Voldemort, who he has never seen before, he is still very confident in his life." After disembarking, Hagrid brought all the students to the door of the auditorium, where Professor McGonagall, who was wearing a wizard robe with a serious face, was already waiting here. Hagrid stepped forward and leaned into Professor McGonagall's ear. "Professor McGonagall, this year, a third-year student burned his pants during a magical duel. I asked him to change his pants first. There are 2 sides in this magical duel. 2 of them are freshmen, each. I don't know what's at fault, what should I do now?" "Freshmen. Are the third-year students at a disadvantage?" Professor McGonagall was also moved by Hagrid's words. "You must know that freshmen have never learned magic, and third-year students have already mastered some intermediate-level killing spells. It is reasonable to say that it should be freshmen who suffer, so that third-year students who are strong and weak can be severely punished." But listening to Hagrid's tone, it was true that the third graders suffered a lot. "Yes, those 2. Hagrid gestured slightly with her eyes to Cassandra, who was as proud as a queen, and Chuhi, who was expressionless. Complete the sorting ceremony according to the procedure first, and then deal with this matter after the sorting ceremony is over." Professor McGonagall opened his mouth to decide. Many professors at Hogwarts such as Dumbledore have been waiting in the Great Hall for a long time. She can't keep all the professors and other senior students waiting in order to deal with a magical duel. She still knows which one is more important. It is good. Hagrid nodded and stepped aside. "Well, welcome to Hogwarts, the house will be your home for the next 7 years. In a little while you'll walk through this door and join the rest of the class, but before you get to the dining hall, you need to be assigned a house: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Your outstanding performance will give the college extra points, and violations will give the college a deduction, and at the end of the year, the college with the highest credits can get the grade cup. Okay, now, let's go to the sorting ceremony with me." After Professor McGonagall turned around, the closed door of the auditorium opened immediately, and the students followed McGonagall into the auditorium. The sky above the Hogwarts Great Hall was like a bright starry sky, with candles suspended in the air. Chuhi looked up at the starry sky with interest. This sky isn't real, it's been enchanted so it's chopped up like the night sky, I read about it in a history of Hogwarts. Hermione, who came to her side at an unknown time, explained to Chuhi. Chuhi gave Hermione a slight nod. It's not that he can't see that the night sky is formed by a spell, but he is observing the composition of this spell. If this illusion spell can be improved into a small spell, then theoretically, it can achieve a good killing effect with some trap magic. It can also be transformed into the aspect of predicament magic, artificially creating a fake maze to hinder the opponent's actions. Okay, stop here, and the person whose name I called sits down. I will put the Sorting Hat on his head, and then the Sorting Hat will decide which college you will be in the future. After Professor McGonagall finished speaking, he opened the list of freshmen. Cassandra. Cassandra walked confidently to the seat and sat down. Before the Sorting Hat was on her head, the folds formed a mouth that screamed Slytherin's decision. Immediately, the seats in the Slytherin branch burst into warm applause, and Cassandra showed Chuhi a charming smile, and then walked to the Slytherin seats. Next, Ronald Weasley. The boy with fiery red hair and an old wizard's robe walked over to the chair and sat down. Ha, another Weasley, I know where to put you, Gryffindor. Ronald happily ran to the Gryffindor's seat. Next, Hermione Granger. Standing beside Chuhi, Hermione nervously walked to the seat and sat down, then Professor McGonagall put the Sorting Hat on her head. Well, talented little girl, you are very suitable for Ravenclaw, but if you go to Slytherin, you can also obtain advanced magic, and Hufflepuff is also suitable for you. Your quality can also be carried forward in Gryffindor. The folds of the Sorting Hat kept muttering, obviously hesitant. The Sorting Hat could not make a decision until 5 minutes passed. McGonagall on the side couldn't help but be a little surprised. The student who made the Sorting Hat hesitate for so long was called Hasto, and she was the only Hasto in the past 100 years. The reason why the Sorting Hat can assign students to the appropriate college is because the founders of the 4 major colleges at that time integrated their own thoughts into the Sorting Hat, and at the same time added self-awareness and a powerful legilimency to the Sorting Hat. Appropriate assignments are made based on the inner thinking of students and the thinking of the 4 first-generation deans. In a situation like Hasto, it means that the 4 first-generation deans in the Sorting Hat have a love for their talents, so they are hesitant. Well, little girl, how about yourself? Do you want to go to Ravenclaw? After hesitating for a long time, the Sorting Hat asked Hermione in a low voice. I want to go to Gryffindor. Then Gryffindor, shouted the Sorting Hat. The Gryffindor's seat immediately cheered. Hasto could almost be the endorsement of outstanding students, and it was undoubtedly a happy news that they were assigned Gryffindor. On the other hand, looking at Slytherin, Hermione's eyes were not good. After all, there was competition between colleges. A Hasto went to Gryffindor, which was definitely not good news for Slytherin branch. Chuhi. Professor McGonagall clicked on Chuhi's name. Chuhi stepped forward and sat on the chair generously, and the students in the 4th courtyard were suddenly a little commotion. There is no other reason. Chuhi's age seems to be too young, the other children are 11 years old, and Chuhi sitting there is only 9 years old, and it stands to reason that he should not have received Hogwarts. The admission invitation letter is correct. Even many professors are a little surprised by Chuhi's age. But Dumbledore did not explain, but leaned forward slightly to focus on Chuhi. Others may not know, but it is impossible for him not to know that Chuhi is a wizard released from Azkaban. A 9-year-old kid who killed a muggle with a death curse should spend the rest of his life in prison, that's what most wizards think. But he felt that it was more because Chuhi was raised by a Death Eater and did not have a suitable guide on the way to grow up, so this tragedy happened. This was not Chuhi's fault. So when Lou Demis discussed with him the proposal to let Chuhi enter the school, he readily agreed to let Chuhi enter Hogwarts to study. And now, he was a little curious about which branch Chuhi would be assigned to. Professor McGonagall then placed the Sorting Hat on Chuhi's head. A minute passed, and the Sorting Hat seemed hesitant. 5 minutes passed, and the Sorting Hat was silent, a scowl on the folded part of his face. Professor McGonagall on the side looked at Chuhi wearing a Sorting Hat in surprise. She didn't expect 2 Hastos to appear this year. Weird. The senior students in the 4th house also held their breaths because of the appearance of this second Hasto. Which branch will this Hasto be assigned to? Cassandra looked at Chuhi confidently. Finally Chuhi heard a small voice. Little guy, there is something in your occlumency. If you don't lift it, I have no way of knowing which branch you should be assigned to. Just let me go to Slytherin. Chuhi replied in a low voice. Is that so? Slytherin has found a treasure. You have such an excellent occlumency at such a young age. This is the first time I have seen a gifted kid like you. It's surprising. The Sorting Hat gave a small compliment. Then, Slytherin. This time, it was Slytherin's turn to cheer and whistle. Gryffindor came out with a Hasto. The Sorting Hat took longer on Chuhi's side than Hermione's. This obviously means that Chuhi is better than Hermione. It's just that everyone, including Dumbledore, didn't expect that the legilimency attached to the Sorting Hat could not read Chuhi's thinking at all. After all, the legilimency on the Sorting Hat was attached when the 4 first-generation deans were founded at that time. Legilimency, that intensity is very high. Chuhi also completely defended against this legilimency because of the transformation of occlumency. Of course, to be able to improve the spell to this level at this age, if the first-generation founders of the 4 branches met Chuhi, they would undoubtedly want to accept Chuhi as a descendant, because Chuhi is absolutely indisputable. Buck's magic genius. And the Sorting Hat naturally wouldn't say that it didn't read Chuhi's thoughts. After all, it is a magical item that the 4 first-generation deans jointly injected into the mind. It can't even handle the occlumency of a 9-year-old child. If it spreads, it will lose face. It's better to be burned to ashes by a fire. Hey, sit over there, he's mine. Cassandra instructed the senior student sitting next to her in an unquestionable tone, and the senior student who was shocked by Queen Cassandra's aura subconsciously sat next to her and gave Chuhi a seat. Location. After Professor McGonagall took off the Sorting Hat, Chuhi naturally walked to the Slytherin branch and sat next to Cassandra. At this time, the atmosphere of Gryffindor and Slytherin was very warm. On the other hand, Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw were a little gloomy. After all, Hasto is too rare. You can't expect to have 3 Hastos in this class of freshmen, can you? Slytherin. Dumbledore leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. On Chuhi's side, Slytherin's senior sisters stretched out their hands enthusiastically to shake hands with him. Of course, the expression on Cassandra's face, who was sitting beside Chuhi, was a little ugly. This made her unable to help but gently kick Chuhi's calf with her slender legs under the table. Although it is said that she and Chuhi are just ordinary friends, but at least she met Chuhi first, and Chuhi came with her all the way, and even came to Slytherin as her request. Why is senior sister so ignorant, holding Chuhi's hands one by one? Cassandra secretly wrote down the faces of these seniors, and she will definitely teach them a lesson after she comes to Slytherin. Chuhi, who was kicked by Cassandra, sat down with a blank face, thinking that it was because he had delayed the sorting ceremony for too long and made Cassandra angry. Sorry, I can't control the sorting time either. Chuhi said a little aggrieved. In his mind, he has recorded a large number of various magics after the magical transformation. Once these magics are leaked out, they will affect the pattern of the entire wizarding world and change, so his occlumency is one of the magic spells he has practiced best. Naturally, he didn't dare to lift the occlumency and let the Sorting Hat peep the knowledge in his head. As a result, the guy in the Sorting Hat dawdled on top of his head for nearly 10 minutes before discussing it with him. He really couldn't do anything about it. PFF'd, I'm not angry, I just accidentally kicked it, do you want me to touch you? Looking at Chuhi who looked aggrieved, Cassandra was suddenly not angry again, because Chuhi was obviously not fascinated by those enthusiastic senior sisters, which made her very happy. No need. Chuhi is also at a loss for Cassandra's sudden change in attitude, but he has spent most of his time researching spells since he can remember. Naturally, he has no experience in the relationship between men and women. Careful thought. Since there were 2 Hastos, the other students' divisions were not worth seeing, so everyone looked forward to Harry Potter, and then they were sorted into Gryffindor logically. Then there was a sumptuous dinner, and the students who were hungry all the way devoured one by one in the face of this feast. After the dinner, a gloomy man with greasy black curly hair appeared in front of Cassandra and Chuhi. I'm the headmaster of Slytherin, Severus Snape, you two, come with me. After indifferently dropping a sentence, Snape walked to another passage in the auditorium. When the prefect of the Slytherin branch saw that the dean had something to do with Cassandra and Chu-Hee, he ignored Cassandra and Chu-Hee, and took other freshmen belonging to Slytherin to the student dormitory. Snape took Cassandra and Chu-Hee through a dimly lit path, and then came to a classroom. There are several other people in the classroom, namely Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster, Professor McGonagall, the head of Gryffindor College, Hermione, Pane Sanyen, and Currit Vanilla, the three who attacked Cassandra by surprise grade students. At this time, Currit had put on a new wizard robe, and was standing with Panessa, looking at Cassandra and Chu-Hee hostilely. However, the wizard's robe can be replaced with a new one, but the bruised nose and bruised face he had previously thrown to the ground by Chu-Hee's levitation spell could not be recovered. Then I want to know what happened at the station. Cassandra, Chu-Hee, Panessa and Currit said you attacked both of them at the station, and as things stand, they did suffer to a certain extent, injury. Dumbledore asked in a flat, steady voice. Professor Dumbledore, I heard that you are a Legilimency master, so just use Legilimency on this slut Panessa, and everything will be revealed. Even in the face of a legendary wizard like Dumbledore, Cassandra did not have her own proud head. Miss Cassandra, please be careful with your words. Snape reminded from the side. I don't intend to use Legilimency against you in this kind of matter, which disregards your right to privacy. Unless this matter cannot be resolved by normal means, I will consider using Legilimency. Dumbledore answered. Principal, I was hanged upside down by her using the fuchsia curse in front of everyone, even my panties were seen, Currit was smashed to the ground by them, and Cassandra also used the fire curse. Burn him. If Hermione hadn't quenched the flames on him with the spring charm, he would have been burned alive. Panessa said, sobbing in a distressed voice. At this time, Chu-Hee's attention was placed on Dumbledore, and at the same time, he used his pupils to activate a magic created by him. Magical perspective. This magic can clearly observe the magic power in other people's bodies, so as to judge the strength of their opponents. The abundance of magic power will be manifested in two aspects, one of which is the range full of magic power. Most wizards' magic power resides in the heart, and as the magic power increases, it will gradually spread to other parts, and eventually fill the entire body, while another aspect is reflected in the color. The first layer of magic power is blue. When the blue magic power completely fills the body, the dots in the heart will appear cyan, and then continue to spread to other parts. When the cyan magic power of the second layer completely fills the whole body, the magic power at the heart will turn into pure white, and then spread to other parts. Most of the Dark Wizards and Death Eaters have blue magic power, and a few powerful Death Eaters can reach the level of cyan magic power, while pure white magic power, Chu-Hee has only seen one person, the one in front of him. Dumbledore. At this time, the white magic power in Dumbledore's body filled about 80% of the area. The pure white magic power was set as the magic power of Wang Yanghai when he created this magic power perspective magic, and seeing Dumbledore with his own eyes today can only be said to live up to his reputation. Among the other people present, the magic power in Cassandra's body at this time was almost blue, filling half of her body, and the magic power of Panessa and Currit still resided in the heart. Like Snape's and McGonagall's magic, it was cyan that filled his body. As for himself, it is at the level of half full of cyan. However, Chu-Hee is not too impatient with the magic power. The magic power can be expanded by continuously consuming magic power. His initial magic power is similar to that of Cassandra. Now it can be transformed into cyan. It is also him. There have always been results obtained by practicing magic. If he really wanted to fight, he was confident that he could tie the two deans by improving the pros and cons of the spell, but if he faced Dumbledore, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. Because Dumbledore's magic power is too huge, it has reached the level of breaking spells with force. Being surrounded by a lot of Dumbledore by Chu-Hee felt a wonderful feeling, as if he was being watched in some very weak way, which made him unable to help cast his eyes to Chu-Hee's pupils, and at the same time slightly activated Legilimency. However, to his surprise, his Legilimency could not see through the thoughts of Chu-Hee, who was only 9 years old. Dumbledore couldn't help sighing inwardly that Chu-Hee deserved to be in Azkaban at such a young age. After discovering that Dumbledore was aware of his own magical perspective, Chu-Hee quickly released the magic. He had already noticed that Dumbledore was beginning to use Legilimency on himself. To be honest, he didn't expect Dumbledore to be able to detect the magic of clairvoyance, because no one but Dumbledore had so far noticed that he was using clairvoyance. Since he did not release this kind of self-created magic, other wizards naturally had no means of preventing it. Humph. Cassandra seemed to sense something, and suddenly blocked between Chuhi and Dumbledore, blocking Dumbledore's sight. But by this time Dumbledore had also disarmed Legilimency. Legilimency also depends on the magic power invested by the spellcaster to determine the corresponding power. If more magic power is invested, it will reveal signs of him using Legilimency. This is somewhat inconsistent with what he said before, so Dumbledore did not know further attempts were made to peep into Chuhi's mind with Legilimency. After all, it is a bit of a waste to use Legilimency with all his strength for a child, and Chuhi didn't do anything nasty, so he wouldn't be allowed to do it. Panessa, Currit. You two, to tell the truth, if you continue to cheat, you may be expelled from school. Snape spoke slowly in an uncomfortable tone. The pale face made Panessa and Currit horrified. Snape, as the director of the branch where they belonged, made them very terrified, even more so. Not to mention now that Snape is targeting. I was the one who challenged Cassandra to a duel, but I didn't expect Currit to sneak up on him. Under Snape's icy gaze, Panessa finally bowed her head, timidly admitting. Seeing that Panessa had admitted it, Currit was as decadent as a deflated ball at this time. As soon as my brain was hot, I thought of giving such an arrogant freshman a little bit of suffering, so I hit her with a smashing spell. HMPH, if you take action against freshmen, you guys are, really from Slytherin, good students, Slytherin will deduct 20 points, you two, copy the potions textbook for me twice, and clean the toilet for a week. Snape snorted and decided the punishment for Panessa and Currit. Professor Snape, I don't think it's fair. It's fine to punish them for copying textbooks and cleaning the toilets. Cassandra and I will also suffer from deducting college points, right? After all, we are now Slytherin students. Chuhi said. Snape's eyes turned to Chuhi immediately, but there was a hint of approval in his sternness. He deducted Slytherin's points, which was also a helpless move. After all, Panessa and Currit were both Slytherin students. If they did something wrong, they would naturally have to deduct points from the college. But Chuhi jumped out and said such a statement, which is equivalent to giving him a reasonable reason not to deduct this point. I have to say that this kid is very good, Snape thought in his heart, and Chuhi is a hasto that is rare to see in 100 years, the more he sees Chuhi, the more pleasing to the eye. What you said makes some sense, so let's avoid deducting college points. Snape spoke slowly. McGonagall and Dumbledore had no problem with this ruling. After all, what Chuhi said made sense, and the deduction of college points was also related to his and Cassandra's college life for the next year. Afterwards, Snape and Chuhi returned to Slytherin's common room. Panessa and Kutra returned to their respective dormitories dejected. Cassandra was also assigned a dormitory by Snape's prefect, and Chuhi was brought to the office by him. Today, well done, you can make an appropriate request. Snape spoke up. Thank you, Dean, can I have a single dormitory? I used to live alone, and I'm not used to living with others. Chuhi said in surprise. After all, he has to study the most evil magic book he bought from Bo Jin. There are a lot of instant death magic on it. The difficulty of studying it is naturally greatly increased when there are roommates, not to mention the possibility of them leaking secrets. Although he said that he has mastered the spell of forgetting nothing, but the single-person dormitory is more secure. Single dormitory. It's a pity that Hogwarts only has grade dormitories, and there is no separate dormitory room. Snape shook his head. It seemed that Chuhi didn't know much about Hogwarts. That's it. Chuhi is somewhat regretful. If you have any questions about potions and defense against the dark arts in the future, you can ask me at any time. Snape said slowly. Thank you, Professor. Chuhi bowed his head politely. Since he didn't have that condition, he couldn't force it. I have a question. Professor, please. Chuhi said politely. What do you think of Muggles? Muggles, there are bad people and there are good people, they're just as human as wizards. Chuhi calmly replied that there are bad people who want to rob him of his property and put him in Azkaban, and there are good people who know that he will give him more vegetables and fruits when he is alone when shopping for vegetables. There is not much discrimination. Very good. Snape nodded in satisfaction. His life, so far, has been full of failures, childhood, crushed childhood sweetheart being snatched away by that disgusting love rival, youth, giving everything to beg Dumbledore to protect that childhood sweetheart, but both because of James Potter's stupidity in choosing the wrong keeper die. I have lived so sadly until now, with nothing but a convenient tool used by Dumbledore. And now, he has a tiny desire to cultivate one. Excellent disciples, come as witnesses in life. Compared with the arrogant Cassandra, he prefers the smart Chu-Hee. Most of Slytherin's students are pure-blooded nobles who discriminate against Muggles, and his former love, Lily Evans, was a Muggle, and the final break between the two was also because of his mudblood. So when it comes to choosing heirs, Snape doesn't want to choose a pure-blood nobleman who discriminates against Muggles. In Slytherin's academy tradition is to be ambitious, shrewd, honoring glory, judging the situation, being wise and protecting oneself, and winning. From Chu-Hee giving him the stares before, it can be seen that Chu-Hee is very shrewd, and a newly admitted freshman will attach so much importance to the college points related to the college cup. It can be seen that he attaches great importance to glory. There is no doubt that Chu-Hee is the one he has seen. The best student, so he wanted to train Chu-Hee as his own disciple. Afterwards, Snape sent Chu-Hee to Slytherin's common room. There is a door-opening order in the common room. Our Slytherins will be changed every 2 weeks and will be written on the notice board. The password for these 2 weeks is wolf poison aconite. Before coming to the common room, Snape said the password of the wolf poison aconite. A stone door appeared on the stone wall, and then Snape watched Chu-Hee walk in. Through the slightly narrow stone corridor, Chu-Hee came to Slytherin's common room. Slytherin's common room is a translucent lounge at the bottom of Black Lake. The wall of the lounge is made of Gothic marble, the ceiling is a transparent semicircle carved from crystal, you can see the sparkling light of drinking water above your head, and the ceiling is chained with green lights. There is a classical fireplace with a beautifully carved mantelpiece. The whole lounge is in cool green tones, and it is like being in a huge underwater aquarium. Through the window, you can see all kinds of fish and squid at the bottom of the Black Lake. In the center of the lounge is a sofa with a blonde girl sitting on it at this time. I'm home. Cassandra glanced back at Chu-Hee, then patted the seat next to her. Sit down. Oh. Chu-Hee walked to Cassandra and sat down generously. Isn't the dean embarrassing you? My dad is from the Ministry of Magic. If he dares to embarrass you, I will let my dad trouble him. Cassandra said sternly. No, the dean treats me very well. Chu-Hee said quickly. Really, that's good. Tomorrow morning is the first class of Professor McGonagall's Transfiguration class. With Gryffindor, go to bed early, don't be late. I heard from the prefect that she is very strict with people, and it is Gryffindor's house long, you will definitely be dealt with strictly if you are late. Seeing that Chu-Hee was not wronged, Cassandra stood up and walked into the girls' lounge with graceful steps. Chu-Hee smiled slightly and stepped into the corridor leading to the boys' lounge. It's a good feeling that someone cares about you. Entering Slytherin's boys' lounge, Draco was chatting with his 2 followers, Bangor and Crabbe, but after seeing Chu-Hee, Draco stopped abruptly like a chicken strangled by the throat. After all, he made a nasty remark to Chu-Hee at Ollivander's wand shop. To be honest, he was quite happy when Chu-Hee and Cassandra were taken away by Snape. He hoped that Chu-Hee and Cassandra could be expelled directly through this fight, but now they have returned to the public rest room, then the results can be imagined. Although he said that his father took the money to apologize to Chu-Hee, but in case he received the money, he would continue to bully him. Well, looking at Chu-Hee who was lying down on his bed, Draco realized that he was being too careful, because Chu-Hee didn't even look at him and didn't mean to find fault at all. This time, Malfoy chatted happily with his 2 servants from all over the world. After all, he just entered Hogwarts today, and everything was very new to him. However, within 2 minutes, a deep sleepiness enveloped the first-year Slytherin freshmen. Everyone yawned in unison, and quickly climbed into bed and fell asleep like a dead pig. Chu-Hee, who was lying on the bed, showed a satisfied smile. Since he grew up in a sinister environment like a dark wizard, he slept very lightly, and he would wake up if there was any movement around him. Draco was chatting over there that his sleep quality was very poor, so he used an improved one. The sleeping charm forced them all to sleep. The improved sleeping charm does not require a wand to be used, and the power of the sleeping charm can range from an instant forced coma, to making the subject unconscious, thinking that he is sleepy and falling asleep. In this kind of improvement that gave up the quick effect, the biggest advantage is that sleeping charm has been improved from requiring a single hit to an area magic. It is not necessary to hit a certain target, but to cast the spell with Chuhi itself as the center. This improvement greatly increases the difficulty of the spell's defense. After everyone fell asleep, Chuhi applied 2 warning spells and a petrification spell trap magic to himself, and then covered the quilt and fell asleep peacefully. The next morning, after getting up, Chuhi lifted the sleeping charm on the first-year Slytherin students, then got up and went to the Transfiguration classroom. After all, Cassandra specially told that it is not good to be late, and it is better to go early. Even if there is no one there, he can read the spell book to preview. In the Transfiguration classroom, Professor McGonagall is squatting on the podium, in the form of a tabby cat. A Gus. This is a special enchantment that allows the wizard to transform into an animal while retaining his own magical abilities. The animals that are changed are related to the character and weight of the wizard. Generally speaking, each person can only become one kind of animal. Generally speaking, the transformation of Gus is limited to non-magical creatures, and the transformation of magical creatures, such as phoenix, fire dragon, hippogriffs, etc. may bring unforeseen consequences. This is because wizard magic and magical creature magic have a fundamentally different relationship in operation. This magic Chuhi has also studied, but he has not personally tested it like other magic spells. The reason is that when practicing Gus, people may become obsessed and cannot change back to normal human beings on their own. Once that happens, it will be the end of his life for him, so Chuhi has not mastered the curse of Gus, but he can still see through Professor McGonagall's Gus. On the other hand, Gus is also rarely learned among dark wizards and Death Eaters. He has no object of observation, so he can only improve and study his magic in theory. Today, I see a living Gus was in front of him, which immediately caught Chuhi's attention. Chuhi came to the first row and sat down, carefully looking at Professor McGonagall, who had turned into a tabby cat. And Professor McGonagall, who was squatting on the lectern, was also very surprised at this time. Could it be that the little guy Chuhi saw through his transformation spell? No. Although he is a Haster, he shouldn't. Professor McGonagall, what would be the unforeseen consequences if Gus turned into a magical creature? Well, this little guy really saw through his spell. In desperation, Professor McGonagall jumped off the podium and turned back into a human form. It depends on what kind of magical creature you become. For example, the phoenix, the unpredictable consequences may have uncontrollable magic power, and be burned by the flame of the phoenix, because the human wizard does not understand the principle of the rebirth of the phoenix from ashes. Although he was a little shocked, Professor McGonagall answered Chuhi's questions. After all, when she was Chuhi's age, she hadn't been exposed to magic yet. Seeing a genius who easily surpassed herself, it would be a lie to say that there was no sense of loss in her heart. But soon McGonagall put that feeling of loss aside, proud of the fact that Hogwarts had produced an excellent student. According to you, after fully analyzing the special abilities of magical creatures, Agus can also be transformed into magical creatures. Theoretically, this is very dangerous. So far, no one has succeeded. I don't recommend that you learn this spell by transforming into a magical creature. With your talent, there is a high probability that you will be able to learn step by step. Be a Gus. McGonagall opened his mouth to advise. New spells always have to be innovative to create. Magic spells don't exist from the beginning, but are created by wizards one by one. I don't think we should stop because the road ahead is dangerous. Fear will make one cannot become stronger. Chuhi said without humility. As expected of someone who was assigned to the Slytherin Academy. Professor McGonagall sighed in his heart, even most adult wizards do not have this kind of ambition. If Chuhi can maintain this ambition, as long as he can survive, he will definitely set off a storm in the wizarding world in the future. But, as your professor, I can't let you do such a dangerous thing. McGonagall said. Professor, use orders to force me to stop, and I will secretly study the principles of this aspect. You can't follow me 24 hours a day and monitor me. Why don't you cooperate with me to develop this trans-era spell? What? With you watching me, I'm sure I'll be saved in time even if something happens. Chuhee opened his mouth to invite. McGonagall stared at Chuhee in amazement. This kid. The words just now clearly told himself that he would not be obedient. She should have deducted points from Slytherin for this kind of behavior. But she also had to admit that Chuhee's words made sense. He really couldn't stop him if he wanted to practice secretly. As the head of Gryffindor, she herself had a lot to do. Instead, it is better to accept Chuhee's proposal, and the two of them work together to improve the spell. But does such a young child really have the ability to improve spells? You must know that her time is also very precious, and it cannot be wasted infinitely on unproductive things. Not to mention that a 9-year-old child proposed to improve Gus. Although he is Hasto, and his future achievements will not be low, but now, he is still too young. It was so dangerous, I almost gave Chuhee a lame trick. What gave you the confidence to improve Gus? Although he felt that Chuhee could not possibly be able to improve Gus, McGonagall still asked. After all, educating a child requires convincing him. That's right, if you want to cooperate, you must show sincerity to prove that I am qualified to cooperate with you. Chuhee nodded, and then an ice blade condensed in his palm. Standless casting is really cool, but it's not enough. McGonagall shook his head. A powerful wizard like her could also cast some simple spells without a wand, although it was a lot less powerful than with a wand, but it was still possible. No, you misunderstood, this is not my sincerity. Chuhee said and drew a wound on the back of his hand. What are you doing? McGonagall asked in astonishment. She didn't understand what Chuhee was trying to prove to herself. The injury is gone. The wound on the back of Chuhee's hand recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Quote! McGonagall was shocked. Although healing magic could save her life to a certain extent, or treat some special diseases, it was the first time she had heard of the magic spell shown by Chuhee that directly accelerates the self-healing of wounds. Although some anti-curses can cause some injuries caused by magic, Chuhee just physically cut the back of his hand with an ice blade, which greatly increased the value of this magic spell. This means that no matter how serious the injury, as long as you learn this spell, the wizard can quickly stop the bleeding, and may even be used in the war with Muggles. This is the branching spell I created by improving the repairing spell. Chuhee explained with a smile. How is that possible? Healing spells can only be used on inanimate objects. It is completely forbidden to use them on animate objects. Trying to use healing spells to heal wounds on humans or animals will cause severe scars. Professor McGonagall loudly said in shock that it is in a sense more difficult to improve a spell than to create one, because being able to improve a spell means that the person is better than creating the spell. The people of this mantra have a deeper understanding of this mantra. Yeah, so I said it was improved. I think, now I am qualified to cooperate with you to try the improvement of Gus. Chuhee asked with a smile. Qualified. Can you share this spell? This is a great contribution to the medical community. Professor McGonagall talked to Chuhee. Sharing, yes, but I consumed a lot of experimental materials when I tried to improve magic, and I'm very poor, you know what I mean. Chuhee said. This magic will cause a stir in the magic world, and I think you will receive a large sum of Galleon awards. Professor McGonagall promised. Then I'll ask you to teach you McGonagall. When I go back, I'll write down the entire analysis of the spell that has passed away. Chuhee said. Okay, if you have questions about Gus, you can come and ask me at any time. If you have mastered what I teach, you can go to more advanced related courses by yourself. McGonagall readily agreed. If it is gold, let him shine, not bury him. If a magician genius is wiped out because of a step-by-step tutorial, she will never forgive herself for the rest of her life. Thank you. Chuhee politely bowed his head and thanked him. He has always been alone in researching spells. The attitude of the professors in Hogwarts towards him is completely different from that of the Death Eater. He likes Hogwarts very much. This kind of college atmosphere. At this time, other Slytherin students and Gryffindor students also entered the Transfiguration classroom, and McGonagall returned to the podium and sat down. It wasn't until a few minutes after the class bell rang that Harry and Ronald rushed into the classroom in a panic. However, Professor McGonagall was in a good mood because he discovered a once-in-a-century curse genius, so he simply reprimanded the two, and then began to teach. Chuhi listened very seriously to Professor McGonagall's lectures. In the end, all his knowledge was understood by reading the magic spellbook by himself. No teacher would be somewhat one-sided and flawed, and the systematic teaching of teachers made up for it in this regard. He has a deeper understanding of magic spells. On the podium, Professor McGonagall couldn't help but be moved when Chuhi listened so intently. Chuhi is a diligent, inquisitive and talented child. Now she really regrets that Chuhi has not been assigned to Gryffindor. Chuhi, the next class is Defense Against the Dark Arts, with Hufflepuff students, shall we? Cassandra opened her mouth to invite. Okay. Chuhi packed up his textbooks and walked towards the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom with Cassandra. By the way, your defense against the dark arts must be very powerful, right? Cassandra asked. It's okay, nothing special. Is that so? To be honest, I want to have a magical duel with you. After the Defense Against the Dark Arts class, private duels between students will be lifted. You can't put water in. I'll be angry if you put water in. Cassandra said excitedly. But I don't want to fight you. Chuhi said helplessly. If he doesn't release the water, he will kill people if he doesn't release the water. If he really fights with Cassandra, how can he not release the water? But she is angry when the water is released, so he doesn't want to fight with Cassandra. Why, you look down on me. Cassandra made a fuss. No, I just think it's a little bit, not very good between friends. Only in this way can we improve each other. Friends, even after quarreling with each other, can still be reconciled. This is called a friend, understand? Okay, then I'll accompany you when you want to fight. Chuhi nodded. It's almost there. The Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom is on the second floor of Hogwarts Castle. It is a dimly lit room that looks a little gloomy. Chuhi and Cassandra walked into the classroom, where a man wearing a turban giving a feeling of weakness was standing in the room. Saying, hello fellow classmates, I'm you. You guys, future black magic. Law defense class teacher. Professor, you can call me Professor Quirrell. The man stammered, as if facing Chuhi and Cassandra as pitiful as some kind of beast. HMPH, Professor How, let's go, Chuhi, let's sit down. Cassandra didn't have the slightest interest in a weak man like Quirrell. She took Chuhi's hand and walked to the first row of the classroom. Chuhi is a little interested in Quirrell. This man feels a little strange to him, but it's not good for him to activate the magic see-through ability when he is pulled by Cassandra. Anyway, after a while in class, he was able to activate his magical power of vision to check how powerful Quirrell was, so he let Cassandra pull him to the first row. Soon, Hufflepuff students also came to the Defense Against the Dark Arts class, and Chuhi unexpectedly saw an acquaintance. Sheila Dandelion. The boy who identified himself as a muggle at King's Cross that day looks to have been assigned to Hufflepuff. When Sheila Dandelion saw Chuhi, he swept his gaze. He couldn't help feeling a little embarrassed. After all, at the sorting ceremony, Chuhi was Hasto, who wore the sorting hat for 10 minutes. This is considered a gifted existence among wizards, but he was just ordinary and was sorted into Hufflepuff. When he thought of himself having said something proudly to Chuhi at the station earlier, he could not wait to dig a hole on the spot to go in and hide. But the only thing fortunate is that Chuhi didn't seem to report to the school that he was trying to show off his wizarding identity to muggles, otherwise he estimated that he would definitely be punished. In this regard, he was more grateful to Chuhi. Same, classmates, today we are going to learn a kind of demon called Fox Mako, magical creature, Fox Makoquan. The whole body is covered with thick, black hair, and there are two rows of sharp fangs. Once bitten, you must take an antidote quickly. We can see them in Northern Europe and North America. Whom Isaac see, likes cold climates and is a pest that breeds in every home and home. After all the students were seated, Quirrell stammered to teach. Chuhi is familiar with the magical creature like Humizi. The venom of Humizi is an essential material for several potions, and its venom characteristics can cause coma, vomiting and other adverse symptoms. Other materials to neutralize this toxicity. By the way, don't look at the name of Humizi as very nice, but in fact this magical creature is very ugly. It can lay 500 eggs at a time and bury them in the ground. It usually takes 2 to 3 weeks to hatch, is a very annoying pest. Knowing the content of Quirrell's teaching, Chuhi's pupils condensed slightly, and he activated the magic perspective spell, and the magic distribution in Quirrell's body was immediately visualized. Seeing this, Chuhi was a little surprised. In terms of total magical power, Quirrell's heart is blue, which is much worse than Snape and McGonagall, but it is a better individual among dark wizards or Death Eaters, but that's not the point. The point is that on his head, to be precise, there should be another white magic core on the back of his head, and the cyan magic in Quirrell is slowly rushing to the white magic core and then being absorbed. The magic color divisions revealed by the magic power perspective actually represent 3 kinds of qualitative changes. Blue is normal magic power, cyan is formed by compressing a lot of blue magic power, and white magic power is formed by compressing a lot of cyan magic power. This qualitative change in magic power is mainly reflected in the efficiency of using magic spells. To give a simple recap, if a magic spell requires 100% blue magic to activate, then only 30% of the cyan magic can be used to exert the same power, while the white magic only needs 1%, can exert the same power. That's why Chuhi was confident that he could fight Snape or McGonagall with the improvement spell and even get the upper hand, but against Dumbledore he could only run away. Because white mana is not only large in quantity, but also in good quality and efficiency, Dumbledore's consumption will kill him when he fights with Dumbledore. And this change in the quality of magic power is also reflected in the power of the magic spell. Ordinary Death Eaters use blue, or just turn cyan magic power to cast Dumbledore's life-sucking spell. At best it can only make him feel uncomfortable or have a nosebleed. Only like Chuhi, Snape, whose cyan magic power is at least half full of magic power, use only curses such as the Death Curse can cause substantial damage to Dumbledore. Of course, Chuhi can still kill the opponent with magic power with only one weak white core like Quirrell's head, but the question is, why does an ordinary professor like Quirrell have 2 magic power core points? And one of them is higher than the enthronement of the heart. There is no problem with his magic power perspective. To make the magic power qualitatively change, the first thing to do is to flood the whole body with magic power, and then compress it to cause the qualitative change. It is absolutely impossible for the body like Quirrell to have cyan magic power under normal circumstances. Possesses white magic. There are only a few reasonable explanations. First, Quirrell made a contract with some kind of weak demon, which is a branch of dark summoning in black magic. Making pacts with demons is very dangerous, but it can give you great power or talent. Second, there was an undead living on Quirrell, who was a big man on the same level as Dumbledore in his lifetime. Third, this is some kind of special magic that he has never understood before, which can forcibly temper his own magic power into higher quality magic power. In any case, holding white magic power is a certain danger to himself, so Chuhi decided to explore Quirrell's secrets carefully. When Quirrell turned, Chuhi used his pupils to unleash another self-created see-through magic. This kind of perspective magic can penetrate walls, clothing, magic enchantments, human bodies and all other obstructions. However, because sometimes the control is not good, the bloody internal organs will be seen, which is not good for the spirit, so Chuhi usually does not use this magic very much. Passing through Quirrell's thick turban, Chuhi saw a withered human face growing on the back of his head, and what made Chuhi's scalp numb was that the eyes of that human face were also staring at him. Having another human face on the back of a person's head is scary in itself, not to mention a very ugly face. However, the years of life experience in Nocturne Alley made Chuhi approach a state of absolute calmness. It is useless to panic when you are afraid. Only calmness can survive. He didn't lose his face in shock, but pretended nothing happened and looked away at Cassandra beside him. Well, after seeing something with hot eyes, it is natural to look for something nice to wash your eyes. Why are you looking at me? Do you like me so much? Aware of Chuhi's gaze, Cassandra asked with some joy. HMPH, I'll let you take a good look after class, and concentrate on class now. Cassandra said proudly. It is good. Chuhi touched his nose, then looked down at his textbook. After calming down, he felt that the face on the back of Quirrell's head looked familiar. He must have seen it somewhere. By the way, that was a few years ago. The Death Eater who enslaved himself brought himself to a portrait and asked himself to swear allegiance to the man in front of the portrait. Voldemort, I didn't expect him to be so weak on the back of a person's head. Now, the chance to make a fortune is coming.